Hello everyone, Zeno What If here. Those that are new to the channel, subscribe to see some of the content I made. Leave a comment down below for any ideas. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Link down in the description of the fanfiction of this, What If. To bring in part 21 of What If the Gate appeared in G.I. Joe. Chapter 40, Operation Awe, Raid on the Imperial Palace. The Emperor Zorzal L. Caesar proclaims, spoke the Imperial Tribune, that under his command, the Imperial forces has defeated the attack on the capital of the Empire and crushed the barbaric forces of the so-called Allied nations. However, despite this victory, we should not forget that the war is far from over. The enemy still occupies the Alnus province, and the enemy agents are still lurking within the capital. If you see anyone suspicious, you must immediately report to the nearest Scorchier patrol. Thus Zorzal has proclaimed that he achieved victory. But this was actually nothing more than a lie, and worst of all, every citizen of Sidera knew it. 4 corps were been defeated. The rebel forces led by Princess Pina has vanished from Jade Palace without a trace. The other worlders has stormed the Basan prison and liberated all captured nobles. And they've all leave by their own will, not because of Imperial forces has pushed them back. To make even worse, there were numerous talks that the Emperor Saul Augustus was still been alive, and that he transferred all the powers over the empire to Pina, thus making her the legitimate ruler of the empire, not his son. All these talks were been suppressed by the sweepers, but they could do little to suppress the further spread of such news. And while Zorzal was now recovering from his daily fears, thinking that he's safe now, he didn't even knew that his enemies were planning another strike that will put a fear of gods all over the Hawks party members, as well shock the already paranoid emperor to the core. Several HMMVs stopped at the gates nearby one of the noble houses in the upper level. The gates quickly opened, and the vehicles rolled inside the court, while the gates were shut down behind them. "Here we are, Your Highness," said Centurion, getting out of the HMMV, the ANF base, Rose Garden. "Is this where your forces stayed, when you commenced your covert operations, Sir Prime?" asked Pina, also getting out of the car. Shook his head Centurion, "That base has been liquidated for security measures. We've picked one of the noble houses, whose family has evacuated after the bombing raids, and turned it into our reserve base." "Reserve base?" surprised Pina. "Standard military procedure," said Scott, also getting out of the HMMV, "always have a spare base of operations, just in case your main base is under a threat of been destroyed. Come on, let's get inside. Plus, oops, this image does not follow our content guidelines. To continue publishing, please remove it or upload a different image." Soon, in the house, Centurion, Skip, Scott, Atami, Eric, Min, Pina and Tyul were discussing their plans. "Is that where the escape exit is?" asked Centurion, pointing to the map. "Yes," said Tyul, "it leads starright to the Imperial Palace. The trouble is, it can only be opened from the inside." "No problem," said Haruka, "I can easily blow the locks, so we can enter the tunnel without any fuss." "But isn't that gonna alert the guards?" asked Pina, "your explosives are so loud." "Not this ones," smiled Haruka, "these special explosives are powerful, yet they silent. Not even a cat could be stirred." "Okay," said Centurion, "now, about those tunnels, Tyul, are there any other exits outside the palace, that leads to the gardens?" "Yes," said Tyul, then pointed to the map, "here." "Excellent," said Centurion, "looks like we've got the hardest part of the operation, I'll figure out. Now to work on the details we need to make this operation success." Nighttime in capital, and almost everyone asleep, but for someone, there's no rest. "Aarrgh," screamed Zorzal, waking up in cold sweat and panting, "Wine. Get me some wine." Cassiopeia took the cup and gave it to Zorzal, who quickly drank it. "Having that terrible dream, sire?" she asked. Groaned Zorzal, "You don't know what it is looks like, when that monster inside that little girl almost beats you to death. I've dreamed that they've all surrounded me, saying that I cannot escape and I must pay for attempting on my father. And then they've beaten me. All 4, Centurion, that girl, the American and the tall blonde guy. It was horrible. Calm down, my emperor, said Cassiopeia, hugging him, they're nowhere near the palace. You're safe now. But how can we defeat them? Cursed Zorzal, I thought, there can only strike us from heavens, yet they've managed to descend an entire army from heavens, defeat my core, and then vanish without a trace. How did they do that? They're not magicians, for crying out loud. They're just humans, yet they always defeating us. There must be a way to defeat them. Don't worry, sire, said Cassiopeia, by tomorrow, you and other members of the Senate will come to the solution. Yes, yes, my dear, said Zorzal, hugging Cassiopeia, tomorrow, we'll find the way to defeat that blasted Centurion Prime once and for all. While back at the Rose Garden, you really need some sleep, Pina, said Scott. Yes, I know, Scott, replied Pina, who was laying in bed with him, but I can't. Since I've learned about that my empire is practically doomed because of the apocryph, I keep asking myself what to do. It's like my entire world's collapsing. Ah, quit babbling nonsense, Pina, snorted Scott. Look, just because your world is dying, it's just a small loss. There's plenty of places in our world where you can live. But I don't want to live anywhere, answered Pina, hugging him. I want to live with you, my love. Of course you'll live with me, smiled Scott. After all, I feel almost the same thing about as well. I know, smiled Pina, that's why, when I'll move to your world, I'll go to your finest military school. What was it call it? The Point. West Point, said Scott, it's where almost all our finest officers are bred. Both General Cilia Stingray Abernathy and her husband Clayton are hailed from there. Yes, said Pina, Lady Stingray has told me a lot about that school. Well, first thing first, said Scott, we need to deal with your dipstick brother first. And that's why, you need to go to sleep, your highness. As you command, Colonel, smiled Pina, and they both kissed, before falling into sleep. In the morning, the ANF patrols have sighted numerous columns of refugees, coming from Duma Mountains to Italica Principality. Zorzal's scorched earth policy has now overshadowed his own father's policy, said Colonel Gibbs. Practically all Duma Mountains are been consumed by the anarchy because of the scorchiers. Because of that, all the people are running from it to Italica Principality, where they seek refuge. I see, said Hazama, and the Italica is still too busy of having the doves put in their new homes. This is a new type of crisis we're dealing since Operation Bastion. On top of that, we've got the Imperial soldiers using guerrilla tactics to strike terror at the citizens. Plus, we've also been reported that the Imperial forces are using several monsters, like blackhounds and other beasts. General, said Colonel Mihara, Prime Minister Tsurugi is on the phone. Thank you, Colonel, answered Hazama and picked up the phone. Yes, Prime Minister San. Yes, yes, I see. Thank you, Tsurugi-san. We'll get on it immediately. He put down the phone and turned to General Keatingle. Inform General Prime, he said, that the Big Three has authorized the operation. They're expecting him to finish it by the end of the day and returns to Italica. Yes, sir, saluted Keating. According to the information we've got from Sam Fisher, said Centurion, while briefing the others about the operation, Zorzal will have a cabinet meeting with the other Hawks at the Imperial Palace. This is the right opportunity to strike. Our mission is to frighten Zorzal and the Hawks so badly, they would have to think about their own safety than to face us. Then there's also Zorzal's attempt to assassinate me and Eric. We need to frighten him, so that he would be forced to cancel the deal with the Assassination Guild. If that blonde prick doesn't come to senses, grinned Eric, slamming his fists, I'll gladly show him a thing or two. Several others chuckled, hearing such sentence. Now then, listen up, said Centurion, here's the plan for the operation. We'll go to the escape passage that leads straight into the palace. He then pointed to the map, it should be located here. Once Haruka blows the locks and open the entrance, we'll proceed inside the palace, from where we'll split up in 3 teams, codenamed Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. Charlie team, led by Colonel Fury, will go first. Their job is to get outside the palace into the gardens, where they'll secure the landing spot for our choppers. Tuka and Yao will go with them, where they'll use slumber magic to put everyone outside into sleep, as well all the guards inside, except those inside the room with Zorzal. Once Team Charlie completes its job, they'll be acting as our support unit from outside, providing the overwatch and cover. Team Bravo, under command of Colonel Mitchell, will go to the Emperor's study. Its job is to secure the necessary documents we need to know about the Hawks and their plans. Hamilton will goes with them. Team Alpha will go to the main room, where we shall have the chit-chat with Zorzel. On top of that, we've been also ordered to arrest several members of the Imperial Court. He then pointed to the pictures of Herm, Kalasta and Mudra. These three assholes are the generals of Zorzel, he said. They're the ones who design his strategies, including his scorched earth policy. One of the peasants, who's also a friend of ours, has identified Herm Ful Mayo as the leader of bandits that attacked the village near Duma Mountains. That scoundrel, growled Pina. I knew he was an idiot, but I never thought he would sink so low. I was a fool to release him from your prison, Sir Prime. Well, the big three didn't like that idiot's new antics, Your Highness, said Centurion. That's why they've ordered us to recapture those three and bring them to Alnus base. Skip, that's your job. No problem, sir, grinned Skip. Consider those three bagged. You said it, Skipper, said Hutch. Now then, said Centurion, for other Hawks, we've prepared another demonstration of power that will really scare the pants of them. We decided to destroy the Imperial Senate building with the SPECTRE-2 gunship. You're going to destroy the Imperial Senate building, gasped Hamilton. That's right, answered Centurion, to show those lapdogs that they're now nothing more than Zorzel's stooges, and to strike fear in their hearts that the same fate might also affect their houses as well. That'll make them run away as far as they can from Sidera. Sounds good, nodded Scott. Once we finish the bussiness with the Hawks, we shall head outside, said Centurion. Fury's team will provide us cover to get to the landing spot, then we get into our choppers and fly out of here to Italica. And thus Zorzel will be left with his nose, chuckled Min. Yup, said Atami, he's always have a big nose. As the two friends chuckled, the others smiled. Now, one more thing, said Centurion. As I said, once we complete our last mission in Sidera, this base will be evacuated. All our forces will be pulled out of the city and transferred to Italica for further redeployment. Only our watchmen will remain in the city to watch any further events. That is all, everyone. We've got several hours to prepare for it, and I don't want any screw-ups. This one's official, sanctioned by the Commander-in-Chief himself and Prime Minister of Japan. Now, let's get ready, men. Dismissed. They've completely humiliated us, shouted Zorzel, as he seated in his throne room with other pro-war senators. It's impossible for normal humans to have such strength. They're not gods. They must have a weakness. According to the reports, said the man in scorchier uniform, the Rose Order of the Knights with Princess Pina was seen working with the other worlders for a long time, since their return from Italica. During the last battle, they've allowed the other worlders to hide several important fugitives within the Jade Palace. This is a proof that the Doves were collaborating with the other worlders since the beginning of this war, said one of the senators. Those peace talks were nothing more than a farce. These traitors have backstabbed us and fooled the Emperor. We must launch the counter-offensive and retake Alnus Hill, shouted Potawan. Those so-called knights must be disbanded, and the women are put through several works to make them more obedient to other men. The other senators roared in approval. Several miles outside the palace, few HMMVs were driving down the road. Pull over here, said Centurion in the lead HMMV. The vehicles stopped, and from them came out several armed men. Go back to Rose Garden, and proceed with the evacuations, said Centurion to the driver. We'll see you back in Italica. Yes, sir, saluted the driver. Good luck. Zorzel's the one who needs luck today, said Centurion, then turned to others. Let's go. Tayul, lead the way. Tayul's ears twitched a bit, as she led Centurion and others towards what initially looked like a rock face on the side of the hill. But upon closer inspection, it was clear to see that there was in fact a massive door that had been designed to blend into the surroundings. It can only open from the inside, the former queen explained, as she inspected the potential entrance. If we can get through, the tunnel would lead us all the way into the palace itself. Haruka, do your thing, ordered Centurion. The team's demolition expert came up and with the assistance of Kozik, placed a pound worth of C4 on certain sections of the hidden exit. Working his magic, Haruka had finished placing the charges, then they took places several meters away from it. Detonating the explosives, said Haruka, holding her hand on the trigger, in 3, 2, 1. Fire. She pressed the button on her remote, and a series of small explosions were set off, destroying the fake rock face and exposing the tunnel that was hidden behind it. Fine work, Haruka-chan, said Centurion, Wolverine, Spider, check it out. The two soldiers went to the opened entrance and carefully inspected. Wolverine sniffed around. Nobody's home, he said. All clear, sir, said Spider. Okay, we're moving in, said Centurion, Spider, Wolverine, take point. Taiul, you go behind them to scan for any enemy nearby. The rest of you, follow me. Thus, the combined special forces move in to begin their assault on the Imperial Palace. My Emperor, said a large man, I am Archimentos, royal physician. We've brought you something you should find really interesting to see. They've presented to Zorzel a platter, on which lied several defragmented bullets. What are those? Surprised Zorzel. We've been finding these objects within the bodies of our soldiers, answered Archimentos. They've appeared to be the lead arrows, same as those used by other Worlders' soldiers. Interesting, said Zorzel, inspecting the bullets, but how they shoot those things. We only know that they uses some kind of a detonation magic to shoot these arrows. How they shoot is not the matter, said one of the senators. What matter is, we do not have a shield that's strong enough to hold these arrows. Even if we make a shield with triple layer steel, said another, it'll be way too big for the man to carry it. So what? Snorted Zorzel, if you have a shield that no one can carry it, find someone else to do it. You don't need to worry about this problem, fellow senators, cause I've got it all solved. He then clapped his hands, and the guards opened the doors. From behind the doors, came two giant armored figures. Behold, said Zorzel, our newest weapon against the other worlders, armored ogres. Each of them carry an armor with triple layer steel, and their shields are fourth layered. They will serve as our front attack units, covering our troopers from those arrows. And not just that, we shall also employ several monsters in our armies, same ones, as we uses in our scorched earth policy. But sire, said one of the senators, such monsters could also turn on our troopers. It'll only incite the riots in our armies. And how do you expect to fight the barbarians? Asked Zorzel, have you forgotten that by using your usual ways, we've already been humiliated by them numerous times? But, sire. No, buts, said Zorzel, this is your emperor's decree. Make your soldiers to accept the monsters in the ranks and fight side by side with them. An excellent idea, my emperor, said a man in praetor's clothing. We will explain this to your soldiers from Pretoria. I think that's an excellent idea, my emperor, said Cassiopeia. Unlike fallen Rufulus and Lufulus, Absinthe is far more competent than them. In fact, why don't we add the Scorchiers to every unit to serve as your hands to control them? That way, they'll be capable of fighting far better than they used to under your father. But that means you'll be splitting the command in two, said Baron Clayton. You know what this means, Lady Cassiopeia. If I remember correctly, answered Vendetta, you're following the orders of your emperor. The Scorchiers are to make sure that your soldiers will follow them to the letter and do not show any signs of cowardice and defeatism. An excellent point, my dear, said Zorzel. You've heard her, Baron. Make sure that our troopers will listen to every words of the Scorchiers. Yes, sire, defeatedly said Baron Clayton. Taiul's ears twitched in the cold air, as the former Queen lead Centurion's operatives through the mostly empty Imperial Palace. Save for a handful of guards who were quickly neutralized and subdued, the Imperial Palace was more or less deserted. Highly unusual since Taiul knew for a fact that the palace normally had a virtual army of servants, slaves milling about the hallways at any given point. But then again, Zorzel had taken control of the throne, so it more than likely that the only persons who remained were Zorzel's supporters. Which was perfect in the former Battle Queen's eyes. The other worlders could eliminate all of them. But Zorzel would be hers and only hers. She would make him suffer. She wanted to make him pay. After navigating the maze of hallways and corridors, the group came upon a large wooden door that was not as ornate as the others they had passed. As a matter of fact, it looked downright sinister. This door leads down to the palace dungeon. Tayul explained, this is where the slaves that worked in the palace were kept, if they disobeyed or misbehaved. It's where he would keep me when he was not showing me off to his father's guests. You think he would keep something else down there? Centurion asked the bunny woman. I know Zorzel. He would want to humiliate his enemies in any way he could if given the opportunity. I would not put it past him to keep something in here. He certainly would not keep it anywhere. Suddenly, Tayul's ears began to twitch, as she stared blankly down the hallway. What is it? Asked Centurion, raising his gun. Someone's coming, she replied, we better hide. Doing as she said, the operatives hid themselves where they could and watched, as they saw a group of men wearing wolf-hide armor and purple robes approach the entrance to the dungeon. Large, thick curtains may give a room that sense of style one may be looking for, but they could be used as a convenient hiding place as well. From their vantage points, the team could see the one who looked like the leader take out a set of keys and unlock the dungeon door. They're here for something hidden in the dungeons, Tayul whispered to Centurion's ear. Centurion then nodded to her and motioned to Skip and Scott. He raised his hand and clasped it into a fist. The others nodded and motioned to others. They all took positions, raised their weapons and fired several suppressed shots, making short work of Zorzel's militia men, as they all fell to the floor motionless and laid in pools of their own blood. But not before the door had been unlocked and pushed open by the now slain leader. Emerging from their hiding spots, Tayul and the operatives moved the bodies out of their way before making their way towards the dungeon. Now, to see what Zorzel is hiding here, said Centurion. Sir, this doesn't appear to be part of our mission, said Skip. A slight detour, answered Centurion, if I'm not mistaken, Zorzel has some kind of a trick up his sleeve here, and I wanna know, what is it? Soon, they've approached a large steel door. As they opened it, they've found a large box in it. Doesn't look like a treasure chest, said Scott. Open it, said Centurion. The box opened, and from it, came a strange-looking thing. What is that? Surprised Skip. Tayul then gasped. It's a dare, she shouted, I can easily smell it. A what? Surprised Hutch. A dare is a shape-shifting monster, said Lele, said to have two hearts. On one side, they appeared to be innocent creatures, but once the signal's been given, they've transformed into ferocious beasts, who slays anyone in their way. I see, said Centurion, a walking Trojan horse. Well, I guess we don't have much of a choice. You said, this thing has two hearts. What about the brain? He then raised his Russian VSS rifle and fired a shot into the thing's head. The next moment, the once cute little thing transformed into a huge ugly monster, but locally, it was dead. The operatives jumped away from it. Whoa, gasped Pepper, holy shit. Talk about ugliness to the bone. So much for cutie little creatures, said 30K. Sir, said Ferguson, showing Centurion a small flute, I've found this in one of those guys we killed outside the doors. That's the whistle used to activate the dare's powers, said Lele, it usually sounds quite silent, with now human can hear it. Thought Centurion, examining the whistle, it must be ultrasonic, same one we used to call our dogs. Then perhaps we can find a way to learn to neutralize those things, if Zorzel uses more of those shape-shifting monsters. He then gives the whistle to Ferguson. Keep it, he said, once we return to Alnus, you give this to our scientists, so that they can learn more about those whistles and dares. Yes, sir, saluted Ferguson, so, what now? We need to get back to our job, answered Centurion, Fury, you and Team, Charlie, proceed outside and make your move. We'll wait at the dungeon doors for Tuka and Yao to put everyone outside to sleep, then we make our moves. Yes, sir, saluted Fury, let's go, team. Now then that matter is taken care of, said Zorzel, it's time for us to deal with the issue of my sister, Princess Pina. Yes, my emperor, said Herm, we cannot underlook the main fact, that the Rose Order has become nothing more than a group of traitors and defeatists. The main fact, that they've chosen to rebel, means that they've been in much bigger conspiracy with the other worlders, said Calasta, just because she's a member of the royal family, this does not excuse her from treason. Joining foreigners is a serious crime, shouted Mudra. This is, Charlie, said Fury, ready to proceed with the operation, Slumber. Go ahead, Charlie, Centurion's voice heard from the radio, we're all set. Lele has activated the magic shield, so we won't get affected by the elf magic. You may now put those guys to bed. Bye. Roger that, sir, answered Fury and motioned to Tuka and Yao. Both Yao and Tuka raised their hands, and from them came a green light. Soon, the place was been clouded by fog. The guards outside the palace begin to drop on the ground and go to sleep. Wow, whistled Pepper, remind me to take Yao with us on our next mission. There appeared to be some kind of a barrier, said Tuka, there must be another magician at Prince's study. Alpha, this is, Charlie, said Nick, Tuka has sensed another magician inside the palace, possibly in Emperor's study. Understood, Charlie, replied Centurion, Bravo, we'll take care of it. Alpha is on its way to its main objective. Copy that, Alpha. Charlie is in position, standing by. What's going on? Barked a man in strange attire, bursting out the study. Why are the men sleeping? I don't know, Sage Samaruman, answered Quirrus. I sense magic, barked Samaruman, I don't know who you are, but you're not passing me. Sorry, pal, suddenly another voice chimed in, but we're not Barlogs. Then a flashbang exploded, blinding everyone. Quirrus and Samaruman tried to protect themselves, but then several shots finished them. This is, Bravo, said Scott into his headset, objective, library, HGAS been secured, hostiles eliminated. Beginning to apprehend the intel required. Nice work, Bravo, said Centurion, once you've gathered the intel, proceed to the rendezvous point, we'll meet you there. Copy that, Alpha, Bravo, out. Alpha, this is Spider. I've got the throne room in sight. Be advised, Zorzel has brought two huge things, looks like ogres wearing armor. Quite bulky, if you ask me, sir. So be on watch out, those things looking really mean. Copy that, Spider, we'll hand it. You need to keep your eyes on Zorzel, be ready to fire, as we agreed. Roger that, sir, I'm all set. Just give a go-ahead. And by the time those barbarians will be ready to mount a new attack, boasted Zorzel, we'll have our forces regrouped and ready. With our armored ogres and other monsters, we can easily crush those other worlders and retake Alnus Hill. We can launch our attack anytime. I just can't wait to see Pina's face, when she'll finally see her master. They can come for us anytime. Bring it on. Oh, really? Suddenly heard Rory's voice. You're asked for it, Prince Shithead, said Centurion's voice. What? Gasped Zorzel, realizing that his enemies are literally behind his doors. The door then exploded to million pieces, and from it came Rory with Centurion. Knock knock, he said, while Rory giggled. Rory Mercury, gasped horrified Zorzel. Well, hello there, little Caesar, said Rory. Then entered Eric and Atami. Seeing them, Zorzel was now panicking. Surprise, motherfucker, grinned Eric, heard, you've looking for me, pretty boy. Well, here I am. Stay away from me, shouted Zorzel. It's been a long time, Prince Zorzel, said Atami. Then, entered Tyul, Lele and Pina. You, shouted Zorzel, how dare you show up here, in my palace? It's not your palace, brother, answered Pina, it's our father's palace. And you're sitting on the throne, which belonged to him. I am the Emperor of Sidera, shouted Zorzel, I owe this throne as the right to my family birth. Father has removed you from your rights, Zorzel, shot back Pina, he proclaimed me instead as the crown princess, so therefore, you're not an emperor, you're just an usurper. You lie, screamed Zorzel. Take a look at this, said Pina, raising her hand with a seal ring, do you recognize this ring, Zorzel? It's our father's seal ring, the same one you should inherited, when he passes the crown to you. Without this ring, your orders are nothing more than scattering in the wind. Other senators also got shocked, hearing all this from Pina. It turned out that she has more rights to the throne than Zorzel. Even if you have the father's seal, continued Zorzel, you're still a traitor. Is it? Shot back Pina, it wasn't I who attacked my father's caravan when he was returning from the ceremony of signing the unconditional surrender. It wasn't I who started this reign of terror that included several nobles being killed by your scorchiers. And it wasn't I who reenacted the scorched earth policy, which has made the people of Sidera really angry. All this was your doing, brother. That's right, said Tyul, standing at Pina's side, all this was your own wicked ways, Zorzel. The same ways you used to slaughter my people, and now, you're doing the same with your own. You've never changed, Zorzel. I do not take such insult from a slave, barked Zorzel. Guards, seize them. I'm afraid, you'll have to do it by yourself, Emperor Airhead, said Centurion. That's right, said Skip, your soldiers out there has taken a little nappy poo. So the only people you can rely on, is right here, said Eric. And it's just so happened, said Atami, Rory here shall gladly take on anyone, who's ready to join the Emroy. So, are there any takers? Rory in response giggled, swinging her halberd. Hey, boys, she said, wanna play? Seeing this, the soldiers quickly run away in terror. So much for your elite troopers, Prince Fancy Pants, snorted Haruka, you've got more cards to play with. As a matter of fact, replied Zorzel, I've got my trump cards. Release the ogres. Then the two giant ogres moved to attack Centurion's team. Whoa, gasped Atami, they've put some armor on them. That's right, boasted Zorzel, these ogres carries the 3-layer armor to protect them from your lead arrows. Your weapons have no effect on them. Now, you shall pummel to death by them. Is that so? Snorted Centurion. Well, Prince Shithead, allow me then to introduce you to an old friend of mine. He then took out his F-116 rocket launcher. I would like you to meet my F-116 rocket launcher, he said. It's an upgraded version of the Russian RPG-7 launcher. It can fire 73mm anti-tank rocket-propelled grenade, which can easily destroy a tank, or in this case, an armored ogre. Hey, don't get all the fun for yourself, so Shiraiken, said Haruka, taking out her rocket launcher, I wanna have some too. Be my guest, said Centurion, aiming at the first ogre. Ready. Ready, answered Haruka, aiming at the second ogre. Fire, ordered Centurion, and both shadow warriors fired their launchers, blowing the ogres' heads to bits, causing them to fall with a loud crash. Zorzel was really shitting himself, seeing that his secret weapon was been blown to bits by those other worlders. Was that your secret weapon? Shouted Atami, they've quite clumsy. And stupid too, added Eric. Centurion then casually reloaded his launcher. Now, that we've taken care of the show, he said, turning to the senators, I believe, it's time for us to get down to business. Herm Fool Mayo, Baron Kalasta and Mudra. In the name of the Allied Nations forces, you are under arrest for committing war crimes. You can't arrest us, shouted Herm. I can, I will, I must, and that's all there is to it. Shot back Centurion, your actions have proven that your release was a mistake of our authority, as well Princess Pina's mistake, so therefore, we've decided to bring you back to answer for your crimes before the tribunal. Considered your parole been revoked. Captain Lang, take them. Yes, sir, said Skip, then he and his Delta operatives mowed to 3 men, hands in the air, and no resisting arrest. You 3 scums are coming with us. Back the fuck up, barked Eric to the remaining guards, aiming at them. Herm tried to resist, but Hutch used his electric shocker to stun him, thus putting the cuffs on stunned Viscount. What kind of a Barabrouse act is this? Protested Count Woody, how dare you back on your words, Princess Pina? My words, shot back Pina, and what about your words? Who allowed you to attempt to assassinate your own emperor? Or do you really think I do not know, who encouraged those men firing their poisonous arrows? What reckless words, said Baron Clayton, it would seem, that you are quite a defeatist, Princess Pina. You idiots, snarled Pina, finally snapping at their stubbornness, do you really think, that because I've got some common sense, that I'm a defeatist? I worked so hard to stop this war, and you instead has turned it into a civil war. Who do you think should be answering for this? If I'm a defeatist, then you're the fools, who cannot see the reality. She then pointed to the ogres' corpses. Just take a look at your precious ogres. Do you really believe that all armor you've put on them would stop the ANF soldiers? Exclamation mark. You saw the rod of steel Sir Prime and Lady Tenno used to take down those ogres. The other ANF soldiers have thousands such weapons, and even more. And even then, how can you control them? They're just wild beasts with no loyalty to anyone. Do you really expect for them to lead your assaults? Everyone knows why we stopped using such creatures in battles. I don't know who came up with such idiotic idea, but he's a clueless moron. Silence, roared Zorzel, that's enough, Pina. You don't have any powers to command me anymore, brother, said Pina, and as a crown princess of the empire, I hereby accuse you and your senators with charges of state treason and assassination attempt on our emperor, Moltsal Augustus. And I've got a statement of my own, said Tyul, as the battle queen of the northern tribes of warrior bunnies, I hereby declare the independence of my nation from the empire and joining with the allied nations as our trusted allies and liberators. Tyul, growled Zorzal. Tyul then turned to him. I promised you, that I will take everything away from you, she spat, well, my vengeance has only begun. It won't be long, before I'll take what's left you hold dear, then your pride. And after that, you'll be begging me to kill you, which you won't receive from me. Not by a long shot. Well, that's about that, said Centurion, I believe, it's time for us to take our leave. By the way, Zorzal, our orders are also included to make sure, that you'll never send the assassins against Lieutenant Eric and me. Otherwise, we'll be forced to renounce our policy of not involving ourselves with the political killings and shoot you. So, I suggest, that you should play by the rules, or it's your head. Hold it, shouted Zorzal, getting up from the throne, it's not over between you and me. I want to take you one-on-one. You want me, said Eric, putting down his M4 rifle and stretching his combat gloves, you got me, Prince Shithead. A Marine does not running away from challenge. So, you think you're better than me, American, growled Zorzal, unsheathing his sword. Yeah, and guess what, pal, shot back Eric, you're not gonna get your ass kicked by a little girl, you're about to get your ass handed to you by a Marine. A Marine, huh, spat Zorzal, well, bring it on. I do not afraid of some sea dog. Sorry to disappoint you, Prince C, grinned Eric, but I'm no sea dog. I'm a devil dog, and those, who messes with us, are messing with the pride of my country. Let's dance. Son of a bitch, roared Zorzal, really pissed off. I'm just getting started, shot back Eric. Zorzal then attacked it with an upward swing, but Eric dodges again and punched Zorzal to his stomach, making him fell on the knees, vomiting. Disgusting, spat Eric, a punch, and you're already sick. And you call yourself an emperor. You're nothing compared to the Japanese emperor my grandfather fought off. He grabs Zorzal's head and bashes it with his knees. Zorzal then falls on the ground, squirming in pain, while Eric kicked the sword away from Zorzal and proceeds to kick into Zorzal's ribs. This one's for Noriko, said Eric. He then lifted Zorzal's head and punches him in the face. This one's for Tyul. Then he delivered another punch. This is for Sherry Tuoli's parents. Then another punch. This one's for Pina. Then another. That is for those warrior bunnies you've slaughtered. Then another. That is for the ANF. And finally, he kicked him in the face. And that is for the US Marine Corps. Zorzal was now lying in pain, moaning and whining. All hail Prince Shithead, quipped Eric, once again, lying in his own shit. Defeated by a barbarian. You low-born scum, whined Zorzal. Eric lowered his head to him and grabbed Zorzal by his hair, lifting his head above. If I'm a barbarian, he spat, then you, royal asshole, are just an ant compared to me. Next time I hear you attempt to rape another girl, I'll personally come down to your palace to clean your clock once and for all. He then let go Zorzal's head and turned to others, but Zorzal rises up with a dagger in his hand. This, he growled, this is far from been over, American. I think not, said Centurion, Spider. A shot then ranged, past Zorzal's face and hit the floor. Zorzal was now frozen in fear. Let me tell you something, Zorzal, said Centurion, coming to him, no matter where you are, you'll always be within our sights. You step over the lines, and we'll drop you. Remember, there's always someone's watching you. You will relieve your orders to kill me and Eric, or next time, a bullet will go through your head. Zorzal, fearing that this might means his own doom, turned back and run to the throne for cover, while Centurion turned to others. Oh, and by the way, senators, he said, since you've also part of those, who's responsible of numerous war crimes against our world, I should also remind you, that we're authorized to take down our targets by all means necessary. What do you mean, you barbarian, growled Potawan. Take a look outside, smiled Centurion, and see for yourselves. Suddenly, a loud thunder hurted, shaking the palace. The senators then runned, only to see, to their horror, as their Senate building was been destroyed slowly by the fire from Warhammer. I hope that you'll understand now, said Centurion, that we can easily destroy your homes as well. In this time, there will be no Spartacus. The time for playing games are over. You wanted the war. You've got one. Now, if you excuse us, we shall take our leave. Later, royal douchebag, Eric flips Zorzel off, and they've run out of the room. As they run, they saw Scott with Hamilton and others. Did you get it? Asked Centurion. We sure did, sir, said Scott, showing his duffel bag, full of documents. Good, said Centurion, now, let's get out of here. Choppers will be landed soon to take us to Italica. As they run outside, several of the remaining guards run to them, but then, several rockets fly out of the growth and hit the guards, killing several of them. All right, said Haruka, looks like Spider is giving us some cover fire. Come on, move your legs, not your mouth, barked Centurion. As they reached the growths, they saw several MH-60 helicopters coming for them. The choppers landed, and everyone got inside. Then they lift off, but then several Imperial archers appeared. Sorry, guys, said 30K, but you're not stopping our flight. He flipped his switch, causing several M18A1 mines to explode. This has caused the Imperial archers to be obliterated. Yeehaw! Cried Eric, we did it, guys. We're home free. As my friend Hannibal Smith used to say, said Centurion. I love it, when plans comes together. That evening, Zorzel and the rest of the pro-war senators were fleeing to the north, towards Telta, where Zorzel hoped to find a refuge away from the other worlders. He was also developed a PTSD, always hearing the shot made by Spider, causing him to be paranoid. Goddammit, he muttered, shivering in his armored carriage, this cannot be happening. I swear, I'll have my revenge on you all. While in other carriage, Furuta watched Cassiopeia, who was grinning on something. What's she up to? He said quietly. Don't worry, said another voice, we'll find out soon. I know, Fisher-san, said Furuta, although I really wish that I go back to my unit. Have patience, Furuta, said Sam, all in good time. Chapter 41, Operation Hannibal. While Zorzel and the pro-war senators were fleeing from Sidera, Centurion's team has safely landed in Camp Formal. Welcome back, sir, saluted Lieutenant Colonel Joyce, as Centurion and his team came out of the MH-60 Ghost Hawk. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel, saluted back Centurion, we've brought with us several prisoners. We need for you to keep them safe, before we'll send them to Alnus. Yes, yes, answered Joyce, looking with despise, as the Delta Force operatives were removing Herm, Kalasta and Mudra. I know what you mean, sir. The people of Italica would tear those three apart. They were the ones who conducted those raids on Duma Mountains. Well, last thing we need here is some lynching, before those three face trial, said Centurion. I've got my orders, Lieutenant Colonel, that those three were to be safely transported to Alnus. They need to face trial for their crimes against not just people of our world, but also against the natives of Falmart. So make sure that nothing happened to them. Yes, sir, saluted Joyce. Meanwhile, Pina and Hamilton were quite happy to rejoin with the rest of her knights. Welcome back, Your Highness, beamed Bozes, happily hugging her royal friend. Yes, yes, answered Pina, hugging Bozes as well. I'm glad to see you as well, Bozes. Unfortunately, I must depart tomorrow to Tokyo. The big three are waiting for me there to have a serious talks about the Empire's fate, as well about Zorzel. Do you think the other worlders will allow us now to form our own army, Your Highness? Asked Panache. It's too soon to tell, answered Pina, but right now, we've got other things to worry about. You can say that again, Your Highness, groaned Champagne. That other worlder's sergeant is trying to kill us. Sergeant? Surprised Pina, who might that be? All right, you pretty ladies, suddenly bellowed another man's voice, the break part is over. Now, get back to your training. Not again, groaned Panache, this man is a monster. Pina then saw a man in a combat pants, boots, vest and a brimmed hat, who also wore sunglasses. He was carrying a baton and looked muscular. Well, what are you looking at? He barked. You were supposed to become a real soldiers, not some fancy knights. But we are knights, Sir Slaughter, whined Mirita. Well, your knight days are over, shot back Sergeant. Slaughter, those Imperials are battle-hardened soldiers, and the only way you can defeat them, is to becoming a real soldiers, like us. You're supposed to become your princess's elite guards. So if you wanna get really tough, you'll have to pass slaughterhouse-style training. Now get your pretty asses moving. Move, move, move. Who is that man? Asked Pina, looking at the man barking command, as he was watching the knights running. That is Sergeant Slaughter, answered Centurion, he's the GI Joe main drill instructor. You mean, that your GI Joe have been trained by that ogre, Sir Prime, said Hamilton. That's right, answered Centurion, when it comes to training the world's top counter-terrorist unit, you need a special type drill instructor, and Sergeant Slaughter fits that bill straight to a T. He can train the recruits for 72 hours, before he can break a sweat. He's also unnaturally strong, been the only human, who was able to defeat the Autobots' strongest warrior Grimlock in wrestling. Their match nearly destroyed our base, but in the end, Slaughter was able to defeat Grimlock, who's later became his best friend. If the recruits can survive his training, they're good enough to join the Joes. Well, I just hope this man doesn't kill Bozes and the others, said Pina. That's not his intention, Princess, answered Centurion. Well, shall we go now? Soon, at the formal mansion, gathered for the first time the Satyran legitimate government in exile. While Pina and Diabo was been presented as the leaders of the new government, Centurion was also present to deliver to the senators the message he received from Flair. Needless to say, this news has shocked the senators and others to the core. Or you're saying, that the continent Falmart is doomed, Sir Prime? Asked Cicero. Yes, Lord Cicero, answered Centurion, that's exactly what Flair himself has told me. And when will the apocryph consume the continent? Asked another senator. We don't know that for now, answered Centurion. Right now, we're preparing to send an investigation team to Chapney, where the apocryph was been sighted. Flair's and Werharen's apostles will be waiting for us there to help us in our investigation. Only after that, we can say, how much time do we have before it's too late? But right now, one thing for certain, the time of Falmart continent is running out, and it's just a matter of time, before the apocryph consumes it. But can you and your allied nations stop this? Asked Marquis Castle. Centurion shook his head. I'm afraid, it's out of our hands, he said. What we're dealing here is not something materialistic, but something that goes far beyond human or God's understanding. And not even Flair himself can't stop it. All we can do right now, is to save what's left of the Falmart. I see, sighed Cicero. Well, we have no other choice. If the gods say to us, we must follow their command. But what will happen to our families? Asked another senator. If we go into other world, how are we gonna live there? That is why Princess Pina will go tomorrow to Tokyo to talk with the leaders of the Big Three, answered Centurion. She will decide several terms of saving Falmart's population, as well the terms of helping others to adapt in our world. Of course, you understand, gentlemen, that once you cross the gate, your previous life will end, and you'll start living a new one, which will be quite different from the one you used to have. Yes, we understand that, Sir Prime, said Castle. We are truly thankful to the gods to provide us a mean to save our lives, but we also regret that stupid mistake our emperor did, when he attacked your world. This is one mistake, that will forever haunt us for the rest of our lives. So, what shall we do now, while Pina is busy talking with the leaders of the Big Three? Asked Diabo. Well, first of all, said Centurion, you need to make sure, that none of the words about the apocryph will leave this room. If does, it might cause a great panic among the population of the Empire. So, you need to keep it a secret, before the results of Chapney investigation are made, and the time of the evacuation will be estimated. Only then we can tell the people the whole truth. Second, you need to work on the terms of unconditional surrender signed by Emperor Molt. These terms are vital for your princess to successfully talk with the Big Three leaders. And thirdly, you also need to start helping the people of the Empire. That way, you'll prove to them, that you really care, and your government isn't just a group of fancy talkers. All this will allow you to win the favor of the population of the Empire, so that they will support you instead of Zorzel. But in order to combat Zorzel's forces, we need our own army, said another senator. Leave that to us, answered Centurion. We are already working with the Commonwealth of Independent Kingdoms about forming a combined army, as well releasing those prisoners who were sympathetic to Princess Pina and respect her as Molt's successor. That way, you might be able to form your own army, a small one, but strong enough to face Zorzel's goons. Agreed, said Diabo, we shall now trust our fate to Princess Pina, who will not just represent our empire, but the people of Falmart as well. My sister, our fates is in your hands. He then bowed to Pina, as well other senators bowed to her. Thank you, gentlemen, said Pina, I shall gladly help you all for the people of the empire, but you understand as well, that once we cross the gate, I will also lose my crown. But that doesn't scare me, I've already decided my future, once I'll become a civilian. I suggest, that you should also decide yours. May gods help us on our duty to the people. May gods help us on our duty to the people, said other senators, Mayui, Kane, Diabo and others. Later on, Diabo has meet with Centurion Prime in secret. It would seem, that my rule here will not last long, Sir Prime, he said. Yes, I'm afraid so, Your Highness, answered Centurion, but as we say in my world, on all is a will of a god. We can't do anything now, but to save Falmart and ourselves. I know, said Diabo, but what about me? Pina may have her plans for the future, but what about mine? I'd always wanted to lead the empire, but now my rule is short-timed. And what about our world? Asked Centurion, you can go there to start your new future, and with your sharp mind and skills, you can become anyone you want. What do you mean, Sir Prime? Asked Diabo. What I'm saying, Diabo, answered Centurion, is that a man with your talents in our world is like a jewel, that fits any ring. You can go to one of our elite schools in USA, like Harvard, it's where most of our top leaders hailed, like President Marshall. Once you finish your education, you can become anyone you want. A businessman, a politician, a financial tycoon, an entrepreneur, you name it. All you need to do is to put your imagination and your skills, and you can become far more powerful than you are now. Thought Diabo, sounds intriguing, Sir Prime. Would you like to tell me more about this place, what was it called? Harvard. Harvard, Your Highness, answered Centurion, I can tell you anything you need to know for the basics, the rest you'll know yourself. Go on, Sir Prime, I'm listening. The next day, the new legitimate government of Sidera in exile was been established, with Prince Diabo as the head of the new government. Pina, as the new leader of the empire, has flown to Alness with Hamilton. On their arrival, both women were been greeted by the chief of the U.S. Secret Service Art Corwin, who took both women by the car to the gate and then straight to Tokyo. Centurion, meanwhile, has returned to Fort Ginza. On his meeting with General Hazama, he has ordered to launch Operation Hannibal, to crush the Imperial, guerrilla, offensive. While Itami was still relieved from the command of 3rd Recon Team due to his statute as the member of Special Forces, Eric and Min were been placed in charge of the team. Meanwhile, Taylor was still stationed in Italica with his crew, helping the refugees, who's now coming to fortified camps near Italica, seeking protection from Imperial attackers. Back at the Alness, Rory has visited Giselle's cell. In one of the many holding cells located under the constabulary office, the former apostle of Hardy had huddled herself up in the corner and hid under the blanket that had been provided. There were worse fates than death, and for an apostle, being excommunicated from their temple was by far one of the worst things that could happen to them. Though not common, such an occurrence was not unheard of. An apostle must have failed, angered their assigned God in such a way, it warranted complete expulsion from their religion with no hopes of ever being allowed back. Worst still, excommunication also meant that they no longer had the powers or abilities that were initially granted to them when they became apostles. That also included losing not only their immortality, but their ability to heal themselves from even the most minor of wounds and injuries. Leaving them to live out the rest of their days as mere mortals, the ultimate insult to an apostle like herself. It was this loss that alerted Giselle that Hardy had excommunicated her, as her wings had failed to grow back and the wounds left behind has not fully healed. She was unable to recall her weapon while imprisoned in this cell, an ability certainly enjoyed especially during a fight, but worst of all, she could no longer sense the power of Hardy within her. A feeling she had felt ever since she first became the apostle of Goddess Hardy. That fact alone destroyed the draconian woman. Her confident and plucky attitude had now been replaced by an overwhelming sense of abandonment and self-loathing. She no longer had her powers, she was no longer the apostle of Hardy, as far as Giselle was concerned, she was nothing. Worthless and a failure, immortal. Suddenly, the door to her cell opened to reveal the all-too-familiar form of Rory Mercury, wearing her trademark smile as two Italian carabineries flanked her. "Come on, time to go," the Apostle of Emroy told the draconian woman, as she walked up pulled off the blanket that covered Giselle, revealing the bright orange prisoner outfit that had been given to her when she first arrived. Long was gone her priestess outfit, which had been torn up badly during her encounter with the other worlders. "Are you satisfied by my fate, dear sister?" asked Giselle. "Actually, I'm more satisfied by the fact that Hardy has finally got what's coming to her," answered Rory. "What do you mean?" asked Giselle, looking confused. "Haven't you heard?" answered Rory. "Hardy was been excommunicated from the gods' pantheon." "What?" gasped Giselle. "How?" "By the orders of the Flare, of course," explains Rory. "It would seem that her shenanigans has finally reached the end of Flare's patience, so he finally has decided to cast Hardy out from the ranks of the gods. She's now been taken by the guardian of time and space to another realm, where she'll live as immortal." Giselle, hearing this, couldn't believe her ears. Her lord is now gone, and she's practically has no god to serve to. "And who's in charge of the underworld now?" she asked. "Why, Emroy, of course," proudly said Rory. "Who would else be in charge of the realm of afterlife?" "But that means," muttered shocked Giselle. "That's right," smiled Rory, "I am now handling your job." This news has literally destroyed the former apostle. Her little sister, who's been clashing with her several times, is now become her new boss. It's as if her humiliation has become much worser. "So," she said defeatedly, "what do you want to do with me?" "Emroy has told me that I can make myself a new apprentice," said Rory. "Someone needs to help me do my work, while I'm handling my duties as his apostle." "And you want me?" asked Giselle with a light of hope in her eyes. "Yes," answered Rory, "but just remember, that if you would dare to disobey me or fail me, you'll excommunicated from the temple of Emroy for the rest of your life. Understand, Giselle?" "Yes, my sister," bowed to her Giselle, "I fully understand and accept your offer." "Very well," said Rory, then she touched body, and Giselle felt a familiar surge of energy. She then felt her wounds been healed, and her wings grow back. She was now demigods again. "Thank you, dear sister," she said, "I'll never disappoint you." "I'll hope so," answered Rory. "Now, come on. It's time for you to get yourself a new job." "Job?" surprised Giselle. "What do you mean, a job?" Later on, Giselle was been applied as the new waitress of the Bunny Stop Tavern. She was quite unhappy by the fact that she has to earn her money by herself, but in the end, her appetite has got the best of her, and she gladly accept the job. "Looks like Giselle has finally turned to a new leaf," said Tuka, seeing Giselle carrying several jugs of beer. "Yeah," said Yao, "it's good to see that she finally earns her allowance the hard way instead on working on Hardy's new schemes." "Ah, heck with Hardy," snorted Rory, "she's long gone, and I'll hope I'll never hear her name again. As for Giselle, well, after she worked out her things, perhaps I shall adopt her as my familiar." "I don't remember apostles have familiars," asked Lele. "That's because we allowed to have one by the will of our gods," answered Rory. "Plus, you know what they say, two heads are better than one. Speaking of which, aren't Atami and others are going on the mission?" Centurion said that we have to wait for a team of scientists to join us on our journey to Chapney Mountain, said Lele, and he also said that Atami will temporarily staying with us as well for the duration of the mission. "Sounds like really important," said Tuka. "Yes," said Yao, "after all, we must investigate that." Shish, hissed Rory, putting her hands over Yao's mouth, "have you forgotten that we cannot tell this to anyone? At least, not yet." "Sorry," muttered Dark Elf, "I forgot." At night, the helicopters were powering up their engines. "Gentlemen," said Centurion, while meeting with the ANF commanders, "as you already know, Zorzel's loyalists are now using the scorched earth tactics and banditry to attack the merchant caravans. Currently, we already receives reports about 300 attacks in Italica Principality, and the number is keep growing by every hour. Fortunately for us, the local people are supporting the ANF efforts to stabilize the region, however, there currently needs our protection." Therefore General Hazama and I have formed the plan of the Operation Hannibal. Its main goal is to destroy the main bases of Zorzal's loyalists in the area, from where they commencing their attacks. You may use whatever force necessary, but we expect to finally have the situation under control in 3 days. General Zhukov will command the operation, as the chief of artillery, while General Lyudwig will command the land forces. Meanwhile, General Keating will make sure that the civilian refugee camps are properly built and put to use, at the same time checking for any unusual guests. We expect you to wrap up the operation by 3 days. Now remember, you must avoid any mistakes. That's been already done in our world by similar operations. That is all, gentlemen, proceed. At night, the F-4J and F-18 begun their attack by dropping cluster bombs on the Imperial bandits' base at Vyazovar, following by the artillery bombardment. After that, tanks and infantry, supported by the helicopters, begun to move in. While at the same time, reinforced checkpoints were been set up, checking the suspicious caravans. 3 minutes to our objective, barked Eric, while he and 3rd Recon team were flying on the Chinook. Our job is to land nearby the village and inspect it. We suspect that it's an enemy base. If it is, we pinpoint it to our artillery and choppers, they'll check it out and destroy it, and we'll do the mop-up operation. Remember, our job is to destroy the Imperials, who leads these bandits, said Min. If we take them out, then the rest of those bandits will be in disarray. Once we land, we go aggressive, not reckless, do you get me? Yes sir. Soon, the Chinooks were hovering above the village. From the helicopters, Eric, Min and others descended and began to search it. Nothing, sir, said Tomita, nothing but corpses, half of them were seemed to be half-eaten. Blue, Eric shivered in disgust, I've heard of cannibalism, but this is ridiculous. Anything on heat scanner? Asked Min. Negative, answered Kuahara, several of those corpses are still warm. That means, the rest of those assholes must be nearby, said Eric, contact the checkpoint and see if there's any suspicious caravan nearby. Yes, sir. This is Mario Leader, said the pilot of Tiger helicopter, I've got several suspicious carts moving south by your position, Outlaw. Copy that, Mario, answered Eric, we'll move in to investigate, you keep us posted if there's any more of those assholes nearby. Roger that, Outlaw, Mario out. Soon, at the road, Eric has stopped a group of what appeared to be merchants, but he knew it was a lie. Your passes, sir, he said, by the orders of Countess Mayui, all merchants must have passes to travel through the lands of Italica Principality. Yes, said nervously the merchant, showing his card, here it is. Eric inspected and find out that the face on the photo and the man presented the card has no match. It's fake, he said, then raised his gun, you guys are phonies. Surrender peacefully, or we'll be forced to kill you. Then the merchants pulled out their swords and daggers. For the glory of Emperor Caesar, they shouted, attacking the 3rd Recon team, but Eric and others responded quickly, firing their guns, killing them, except their leader. All right, asshole, barked Eric, grabbing the man and pushing him on the ground, hands behind your back. Tomita, Kuribayashi, search those carts. See what we can learn more about these guys. Yes, sir, answered the 2 Japanese soldiers and begun searching the carts. Hey, said Kuribayashi, finding several swords, these swords have imperial crests on them, as well blood. These guys aren't merchants, they're soldiers of Zorzal's army. I've found something else, said Tomita, finding several clothings, these are the imitations of ANF uniforms. They must be using these to plunder the civilians, disguised as our troopers, and then blame it all on ANF. There's more here, said Kuribayashi, checking underneath the cart, look. She shown several crossbows that looked like rifles. These are the crude copies of our weapons, she said, they must have used them in order to complete their imitations of ANF soldiers. A false flag operation, huh? Snorted Eric, why am I not surprised? All right, pal, on your feet. He pulled the leader onto his feet and pushed him to the cart, then he grabbed the sword and pulled it to the terrified man's mouth. You were the ones who conducted those attacks on those innocent people, he snarled, and you're the one who allowed those monsters eat those people in that village. Now, you're gonna tell me, where's the rest of your buddies, or I'll shovel this sword right down your scrawny little throat. No, No, muttered the terrified leader, I'll talk, please, spare me. That depends on the information you can provide to us, spat Eric, now, start talking. Few minutes later, the body of the dead bandit leader lied at the side of the road, while Eric contacted the HQ. Starbase, this is 3rd Recon. We've got the confirmation that the enemy base is in Zartost, located nearby Alguna Kingdom. We've also gotten proof that the enemy is using mock-up gear of the ANF uniforms and weapons in order to conduct the false flag operations against the people. Awaiting further orders, over. Understood, 3rd Recon. Return to the base and stand by for redeployment with the 1st Recon to Zartost. We've been also collecting information about that city and learn that currently it's one of the Empire's main strongholds. There's also quite possible that Zartost has been used as a slaver town. Your job will be to capture the city and free all the slaves held there. Understood, Starbase. Returning to base for redeployment, 3rd Recon out. 3rd Recon, this is Battler 1, suddenly said the Tiger Copter pilot, we've got the pack of Black Phantom Hounds coming to your positions. Understood, Battler 1, said Eric, requesting an airvac for me and my team. Tell the guys from the artillery and air force that they can blow those hounds to bits. Affirmative, 3rd Recon, answered the pilot, airvac is on the way, Battler 1 out. Alright, team, said Eric, regroup. We've got a bunch of Black Phantom Hounds coming our way. What are those? Asked Nishina. They're quite strong and vicious, answered Tomita, each of them look like a dog, but they're also big as a tiger. And we don't want to play circus with those puppies, said Eric, that's why we're outta here. Get ready for the airvac, now. Soon, the Chinook helicopter landed nearby. Eric and his team got on board and flight out, while F-18 and F-4J begin their bombing on the Black Phantom Hounds, killing them by thousands. Then the artillery begin to shell the hounds. Black Sheep to Battler 1, said the F-18 pilot, seeing several huge bulkier figures below, I've got a bunch of armored ogres joining the party, over. Understood, Black Sheep, said the Tiger pilot, we'll handle them. Commencing the attack. The Tiger choppers begun firing their HOT-2 missiles, blowing the armored ogres to bits. More monsters, said Tiger pilot, goblins and rhinoceros. Copy that, BATLER-1, said the F-4J pilot, leave that to us. The F-4J has flied over the goblins formation with rhinoceros, dropping several cluster bombs, which exploded, killing the enemy with lethal fragments. Scratch one rhino, said F-4J pilot Akira Kamikoda. Hey, Baron, answered his co-pilot Jun Kurihama, did you know that those rhinos are endangered species? Greenpeace ain't gonna like this. Who cares? Snorted Kamikoda, at least they don't use rhinos in our world as weapons. Let them complain to me. Meanwhile, in the woods. Damn it, cursed Krappa, as he saw the Japanese F-4J flying over them, our attack has failed. The barbarians has destroyed most of our monsters. Now, we have no other choice but to fall back to Zartost. Emperor Caesar ain't gonna like this. Unknown to Krappa, several drones flied over them. Reaper to Baron, said the drone pilot to Kamikoda, spotted what appeared to be a large group of Imperials at the forest nearby your present position. Copy that, Reaper, answered Kamikoda, I'm going in. The F-4J flied over the hidden Imperial soldiers, dropping its cluster bombs, which exploded and blown several acres of forest, among with the Imperials. Confirming hit, Baron, said Tiger pilot. Roger that, Battler 1, answered Kamikoda, me and my partner are almost bingo on fuel, returning to base. Understood, Baron, said Tiger pilot, we'll take it from here. As the ANF troopers moved towards the shell-shocked enemy troopers, only Krappa and several of his men were able to escape. Damn it, he cursed again, wiping blood of his forehead, those barbarians are too fast and quick reacting. Head back for Zartost, hurry. Use the night for cover. Damn it. General Herm's strategy is literally falling apart. Those other worlders have quickly learned how to combat local bandits, and now they're using it to fight our soldiers. This is not good. Our entire guerrilla offensive is stalled. If those barbarians capture Zartost, this guerrilla warfare is good as dead. To Hardy's hell with those blasted barbarians. It was a sunny morning in Delvo as the sun shined brightly onto the town with clear blue skies and white clouds. The townsfolk with different professions were also starting to do their activities. Those who work as merchants begun to open their booths and place their products into the stall, while the ones who work as farmers took their farming tools such as spades, spading forks, shears, flails, scythes, rakes, and sickles, along with their cattle as oxen. The ranchers started to feeding their stocks, the blacksmiths begun to lighten up the fire, and the bakers begun to processing the flour into doughs. "Good morning, Mr. Lemeeble. Where are you going to this time?" said one of the farmers, looking at Mr. Lemeeble who seated on his wagon while smoking a pipe. "Ah, Mr. Runmow, today I need to deliver these grains to Zartost. You know, since their defeat in Alnus Hill, the Empire capital's food storage become lower. I heard they lost so many soldiers and supplies during that battle. Such a shame, but they deserve it. Hey, I am lucky that I saying these words without them being around." "Damn right you do. I heard from Mr. Hutbid that now the Imperial soldier in our city who acts as town guards are only around 24 people. Lesser before the war started," said Mr. Lemeeble. "Well, sorry for leaving so soon, Mr. Runmow. I need to deliver these goods quickly. Go thy way, Mr. Lemeeble." Mr. Runmow waved his hand at Mr. Lemeeble who drove his wagon to the opposite side of the town. Then, he continued to check his field in case there is a pest. In the plaza of the town, there were 6 children with 4 boys and 2 girls playing tag. Since the town was not so crowded, they have plenty of space to do their game. "I'm going to catch you," said the fat boy while chasing his friends. "Nah nah 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 nah. I'm faster than you," replies one of the boys while mocking him by sticking out his tongue and gesturing his 2 arms like a horn. Then the boy suddenly slipped out and fell to the ground. The fat boy immediately touched him and said this word in a loud voice. "Tag. Ah, no fair. I slipped out so that does not count," the tag boy said. "Rules are rules, Ethfer. Do not break it," replies the fat boy. Yeah, whatever Gerlio," Ethfer responded grumbly at Gerlio's words. Gerlio helps Ethfer to get up and continue to play. But before they start chasing their friends again, they hear strange sounds. One of those sounds is very similar to the movement of a trebuchet or battering ram wheel, but this one is louder and faster. When the people in the town looked around their surroundings to find the source of the sound, 3 Bel-UH-1Y venoms were flying above the town. The townsfolk begun to feel curious about the helicopters that are passing their town. They started to discuss the strange flying metal beasts. Could this be one of those other monsters that were owned by the other worlders who visited their place a few days ago? It turns out that their expectation was correct. Right after those helicopters fly past the town, one of the farmers tell the townsfolk that the same walking metal beasts that were used by the other worlders are approaching their city. From the balcony of his castle, Baron Humfred Neremius, the ruler of Delvo City, began to panic. "What should we do, Lord Humfred?" said Hosius Oresius, the head of Delvo Town Guards. It took time for Humfred to find a perfect word to explain the situation in his city, as he gripped tightly the balcony railing that is made of cobblestone, showing that he was scared. He remembered exactly the story about the Empire's defeat in Alnus Hill, and now the enemy from the other side of the gate is entering his city. Even though he didn't participate in that battle, he known that the description of the beasts that the other worlders has is very accurate to the people who have the experience to face that thing. But what makes Humfred confused is why the townsfolk weren't scared of them. It seems like they were welcoming the other worlders to come in here. Does that mean they have visited this city before when he goes on a mission to Sidera? Tell the remaining guards to block their movement. Now, Humfred said in an afraid tone. Hosius immediately went to the room where the town guards were stationed. Alert! Alert! The enemy is entering the city. All guards, prepare your armor and swords now, Hosius said to the town guards. Hearing that, the guards immediately weared their armor and put their swords in their scabbards. The Delvo town guards quickly moved to the plaza to protect the people from the enemy. But, they stopped moving when they saw the American M2A4 Bradley, the Russian BMP-3M, the German Boxer APC, and the Japanese Komatsu Type 96 APC parked in the middle of the plaza. What made them more afraid, is that there behind those 3 armored vehicles were the remaining of the other armored vehicles which were owned by the Allied nations' forces units that were deployed to capture this city. Colonel, "It looks like some of the town guards are in here," said Private Aaron Hodges to his superior, Colonel Jeremy McCormick, who just got off from his JLTV which parked behind the BTR-80A. "Ah, and I thought no town guards were remaining in here just like what 1st Recon Platoon reports," Colonel McCormick replied with a dissatisfied tone. Eyeing the town guards, McCormick looked at Hosius, who has a conspicuous attire. From McCormick's eyes, he saw that Hosius was dressed in steel plate armor that has a combination of both barn red on the sides and grayish-green on the center, barn red silk pants, and black shoes. In comparison, his subordinates were wearing the same clothes and colors, except that the grayish-green is replaced by a wenge-brown color. At the same time, Hosius saw that these strange soldiers didn't attack them, but instead they just standed there, looking at the armored vehicles and the other worlder soldiers with a mix of scared and fascinated feelings. Without the slightest worry, Colonel McCormick stepped forward and approaches Hosius alone. "You must be the head of the town guards," said McCormick. "Yes, and who are you? What do you want?" replied Hosius. "I want to meet the leader of this city. Is he here?" McCormick tried to play calm as he did not want to start a small battle. Hosius was shocked. Never in his life he sees the attacker of his city want to meet his leader in a polite manner. Because of this, he was now having a dilemma of either keeping these strange soldiers away from the city or letting them meet his lord. "Do not worry, we mean no harm to you all," McCormick said as he wanted to reassure Hosius that they won't do anything nasty to them. "We just want to meet the person who runs the city," he continued, and make body language with his hand to make Hosius understand. Right at that time, Hosius somehow chose to bring McCormick to his lord rather than kicking them out of this city. He ordered his men to lower their swords. "I will take you to him, follow me," said Hosius. "Guards, stay in here, while you two come with me," he added. Then, as McCormick followed what Hosius said, he also ordered his 2 men to accompany him too, in case something funny will happen. As they walked through the cobblestones and timber-framed buildings, McCormick looked at the townsfolk of this city who were very curious about his and his soldiers' presence. He saw a miller grind a wheat grain while looking at them, then a blacksmith eyeing their weapon, and many more. When they reached the castle where Baron Humfred and his family live, he noticed that there are no castle guards. McCormick assumed that the castle guards could be the only elite unit in this city, and somehow they got picked by the Empire to participate in the invasion of Japan. Hosius opened the door and let McCormick along with his subordinate enter the castle. When he comes in, Humfred's personal maids were shocked looking at their presence. At the moment when McCormick and Hosius walk side by side, it could have been a good photo for the video game cover or sci-fi magazine cover or the upcoming Hollywood sci-fi fantasy genre movie, when it showed a modern infantry soldier walking alongside a medieval infantry knight inside a castle hall. Inside the throne room, where Humfred was waiting for Hosius' result. He was walking back and forth inside his room. Of course, this makes his wife alongside his 2 daughters and 2 sons confused. "What's wrong, father?" Fincy Neremius, Humfred's daughter, asked. "You look so worried." "Ah, it's nothing, Fincy," Humfred said. Then, the door to the throne room opened. "Hosius, how's the progress? Have you managed to?" Before finishing his sentence, Humfred was shocked when he saw McCormick entered the room without a single scratch. Surprisingly, he also saw Hosius is in a good shape too. Why do you bring them here? I ordered you to not let them enter deeply into our town, not bring them here." "I'm sorry, Lord Humfred. At first, we want to attack them, but their leader, this person, want to negotiate instead of attacking us back." After Hosius explained the situation to Humfred, McCormick suddenly stepped forward and talks to the Delvo ruler. "You must be the ruler of this city." "Yes. What do you want from me? I did not participate in that Alnus Hill battle. I did do nothing wrong against you," said Humfred. "It's true though, he didn't participate in that battle because he fell ill at that time and was instead replaced by his royal guards under the command of General Mathisala. We already know that. If you already know that, then why are you coming in here?" asked Humfred, feeling confused with McCormick's statements. "The reason for our presence here is simple. This city will be under our control now, by the orders from legitimate government of Sidera in exile and Countess Mayui Formal," replied McCormick. Do you think you could easily come in here and kill me? And take over my town? Guards, kill them, shouted Humfred. Right when Hosius alongside his 2 men a surprise attacked on McCormick and his boys, Hodges quickly dodged the attack and shooted 2 of Hosius' men with 4 shots from his M4A1, 2 shots for each one. This made both Humfred and Hosius shocked immediately. As Hosius almost killed McCormick with his sword, McCormick swerved his body and then started to use his arms to take him down to the ground. Right when Hosius's body is on the floor, he strongly smashed his face with a right jab move. After hearing those firing shots, Humfred's wife alongside their children began to tremble in fear, while Humfred was still standing with a shocked expression. He saw his men groaning in pain and holding the part of the body that got hit. Never in his life, there's a man who will come into his place and demand him to hand over the city. Last chance, Humfred, McCormick said while taking out his silver medium-barrel Smith & Wesson Model 468.38 from the holster and aimed it at Humfred's head only with his right hand. Work for us, or this weapon could blow up your head into pieces. Dear, just listen to whatever he wants, said Humfred's wife, as she was shielding her children, protecting them from the other worlders. Oh, why do you want this town so much? Humfred asked in a mix of scared and confused tone as he wanted to know the intention of the other worlders' plan to take over his town. Because this town will disconnect the entire Empire's hub in the south side of the former Alnus province alongside the entire Elb Kingdom, Mudwan Kingdom, Alguna Kingdom, and League Principality. Not to mention, we also decide to make this town a diplomatic post to those 4 former Empire's vassal states now independent kingdoms. This decision was been made, after we made a deal with King Duran, as well with Princess Pina and Countess Mayui, who needed to secure their south side of Italica Principality. McCormick's statement made Humfred shocked. The other worlders have quickly established an alliance with one of the Empire's vassals and captured the entire Alnus province just in a few days. And just to make him more shocked, Formal Family is also now allied with the other worlders, as well Princess Pina, whose, according to some rumors, has now led the legitimate government in exile, contrary to her brother Zorzel, who's now proclaimed himself as the new emperor. Humfred didn't want to believe all this, yet here's stand this other worlder, who tell him all this right in his face. It was at this moment, Humfred realized that the enemy that Empire's facing was 10 times stronger than them. No, maybe even 20 times stronger. The other worlders were not only strong at firepower and manpower quality but also in diplomatic power. Very well, Humfred said in a defeated tone, I, Baron Humfred Neremius, humbly hand over this city to yours. You have made the right choice, Baron. McCormick complimented him and then put his revolver back in the holster again. What do you plan to do with me, and my family? Humfred asked. Nothing. That's the point. You can keep your title and your duty to rule the city, but you just need to ally with us and disown the rules of Zorzel. In case if you didn't know, Emperor Mold Saul Augustus has made Princess Pina as his legitimate heir, so we're working with the legitimate ruler of the Empire, unlike Zorzel, who usurped the imperial crown, replied McCormick. Private Hodges, Sergeant John Mullinax, take the other 2 town guards to the JLTV. Patch them up alongside. Who's his name, Sir Humfred? He humbly asked the name of the town guard head. Ah, his name is Hosius. Hosius. Thanks. Still, in a confused state, Humfred looked at the 3 American soldiers who now were leaving the room while carrying his wounded town guard somewhere. Then, he approached his family and praised Emroy and the other worlders for sparing his life and his family. Meanwhile, on the front plaza, both the ANF soldiers and town guards were still staring at each other awkwardly. Then, when McCormick arrived while carrying Hosius alongside Gabriel and Hodges, the town guards became confused about how could their leader have bruises on his face. Then, the town guards looked at McCormick, who put down Hosius in front of the JLTV and starts asking his subordinates to get first aid for him. After the female soldier gave him the medical bag, he quickly putted some ice packs on the bruises on Hosius's face. As the town guards we still thinking about what happened to Hosius, Gerlio, the fat kid who was one of the children playing tag in the plaza, screamed. Everyone, look. All of the Delvo citizens in the front plaza of the city looked at the incoming Russian T-90M and the Japanese Type 90 MBT. The people in the town were both feel amazed and scared when looking at those tanks, but the ones who really feel threatened and scared are the town guards because coincidentally, the Rheinmetall 120mm smoothbore gun from the Japanese Type 90, Wes pointed at them, which makes the people think that the Japanese were ready to make the town guards meet Emroy quickly. While McCormick was patching up Hosius, he quickly ordered Sergeant Roger Leanville and Corporal Eugene Sayers to raise both the Allied nations' forces and the United States flag on the top of Humfred's castle. Both of them will be accompanied by Sergeant Agrafena Kurtabiva and Sergeant Leonid Benediktov, Corporal Sven Weixler and Private Olga Latsky, and Sergeant Ginji Rakuta and Corporal Hiroko Shimokawa, as all of them are tasked to raising their respective countries' flags. In the HQ building of Fort Ginza, Centurion was working in his office when the intercom phone buzzed. "Yes?" asked Centurion, pushing the receiving button. "General Prime, King Duran is here to see you," said the captain's voice. "Yes, send him in," said Centurion, "I've been expecting him." "Yes, sir." A few minutes later, King Duran walked into Centurion's office and shook Centurion's hand. "Welcome to Fort Ginza, Your Majesty," Centurion has greeted the king. "Yes, it's good to see you as well, Sir Prime," answered Duran. "I believe we need to discuss a few things between each other." "Yes, Your Majesty," said Centurion, "please, be seated." They seated at the sides of the table, facing each other. "Sir Prime," said Duran, "as I heard it, you've met with the gods of Falmart." "Yes, Your Majesty," said Centurion, "that is correct." "Then tell me," said Duran with desperation in his eyes, "is it true?" Centurion then sighed. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said, "but you must understand, that right now, you cannot share this information to anyone, because it might cause a great panic in Falmart." "Heavens forbid," waved his hand Duran, "my lips are sealed on this matter. But tell me, is it true, that right now, I have no other choice, than to move my people and myself at the other side of the gate?" "Yes, Your Majesty," said Centurion, "although you do understand the consequences of this move." "I know," answered Duran, "but I do not care, even if I have to surrender my crown for the safety of my people, to them I still be the king. And they all will continue to respect me and serve under my leadership, no matter of whom I will become. So, as you can see, Sir Prime, my crown does not matter to me. What matter is the safety of my people." "I'm glad to hear that, Your Majesty," smiled Centurion. "By the way, have you and other independent kingdoms have decided about your participants in this war with Zorzel?" "Not yet," answered Duran, "we're still scheduled to hold another meeting. But considering that monster of a prince is hating not just me, but also my people and determined to make me pay for my renounce the vassality with the Empire, I'm afraid, I don't have much of a choice, Sir Prime. We will join you on this last war, and we will help you defeat that madman once and for all." "Thank you, Your Majesty," said Centurion. "Now, there's something I need to ask you about. It's about a secret operation we've prepared to finally free all our people, who's been kidnapped by the Empire." "I'm all ears, Sir Prime. What do you have in mind?" 13th Platoon was once again tasked by the ANF commanders to raid other military camps to weaken Zorzel's loyalists' military presence in this province. Their last mission was when they raided Trammel Camp in Kauhai City, which was located near the border of the Campotania region, the province on the northern of Alnus province. As Sutton did not want to attract any attention to the enemy and the civilians, he asked Bajanov and Wiggins to land their helicopters 10 kilometers (6.21 miles) from the city and wait for his command. The platoon also got the additional support of two M142 HIMARS GMLRS with M31A2 rockets, two 9A52-2B M30 Smerch M with 9 M542 PGM missiles, two 2S7 Pion, and two M109 howitzers from the Artillery Brigade of Russian Ground Forces and United States Army, just in case the enemy got a backup reinforcement. Before entering the camp, Sutton once again ordered Arakaki to take a position on the hill. But this time, he was accompanied by Lieutenant Soma, who provided some information about the surroundings to make his work less difficult. For the 13th Platoon, today was their lucky day, as the camp in this city was near the hill just like Trammel Camp 1. So the assistance of a sharpshooter was much easier. From the intel that I got after we captured some of the Imperial soldiers, the Senevse fortress holds as one of the strongholds for the Zorzel's loyalists' army after the Skayandwar fortress and the Kamiup fortress in this province. Since capturing a fortress ain't easy, the High Command said that this mission has to have at least 3 to 4 platoons. After Sutton said that, the 13th Platoon personnel looked at the additional vehicles that contains the newly formed 9th Platoon and 6th Platoon. Say hello to our new friends. The 9th Platoon consisted of the 1st Special Forces Group of Green Berets, Spetsnaz of Russian Airborne Forces, 72nd Brigade for Special Operations of Greek Armed Forces, Night Tiger of PLA Special Operation Forces, Para-SF of Indian Army, Tantaipur of Indonesian Army, Frogman Forces Command, and Special Forces Group of Japan Ground Self-Defense Force, while the 6th Platoon consisted of Delta Force Alpha Squadron, 75th Ranger Regiment, J.W. Comendoso, 13th Parachute Dragoon Regiment of French Army, 707th Special Mission Group of PLA Army, 1st South African Special Air Service Regiment of RSA Army, and Special Reconnaissance Regiment of Australian Army. Well, I don't have much time to tell all the personnel names. But the only thing that you need to know is that this company will be led by me and the other 2 commanders. They are Colonel Valery Prigozhin and Colonel Calvin Murphy. Sutton introduced the new 2 commanders to his personnel, then, he continued to speak again. Now, listen up, everyone. We are the first units that were tasked to capture that fortress. So I should warn you all like always not to underestimate the enemy, and remember, capturing that fortress would cripple Zorzal's bandits' presence in Alness. They've been lately going on several raids against the civilians and merchants, and our command has wanted to something done about it. I don't know how many enemies out there, but at least we could show these fuckers that we are being serious. After saying that, Sutton pulled out a map that shows the whole Alness province he acquired that after the raid on Trammel Camp, and he put the map on the door of the JLTV. Alright, the plan is simple. My platoon will move around and enter from the north side of the fortress. Then, I want the UAV unit to provide information about the amount of the enemy by launching your drone from this direction, Sutton said as he pointed to the ground below. After the UAV detects the location and movement of the enemy, the snipers will kill the guards on the crenellations of the fortress, and we will start to move. Then after Colonel Sutton confirmed that he and his team have arrived on the west side of the fortress. We need to move quickly as we don't know if our comms will be interrupted if he enters the fortress. We will move to the north and the east side of the fortress. Prigozhin explains his plan, which has been accepted both by Sutton and Murphy. Alright, me alongside Major Lei Long, Major Andreu Kolikotronis, Captain Yulia Sionipar, and Sergeant Major Evan Rakhmid will cover the east side, while Major Eric Bassett, Captain Oka Shinji, and Major Raju Satwalekar cover the front side, or we could say, the north side. And for Lieutenant Colonel Murphy's units, you all will go to the south and north side too, Sutton continued. Murphy. Yes. Major Michael Eric Vincent alongside Captain Charles LaFontaine and Captain Shindong Wook will accompany me to the north side. Then Captain Gerzagori Stavros, Captain Cody Barrett, and Master Sergeant Keith Foley will provide support from the south side. Murphy explained further about the plan. Any questions? Sutton asked. After he said that, a French soldier raised his hands. Sir. Yes. Sutton responds. Do we need to call the artillery to breach the fortress wall? Or, do we have any methods to enter the place? Good question. Sutton replied to the French soldier, since our platoon's successful mission in Trammel Camp, we have been using this grappling hook so we can climb on the wall. He said as he held the grapnel gun called GPHK-55, but remember, we can only do this after the snipers eliminating the tangos on the crenellations. Now, any more questions? The 13th Platoon personnel alongside the 9th Platoon and 6th Platoon personnel did not say a word. Alright then, let's roll out people, said Sutton. We need to finish this so that the regular boys can do their operation to take over the city easily. As the 13th Platoon, 9th Platoon, and 6th Platoon began to move forward towards the fortress, the UAV units, led by Herkenhoff and consisting of 7 people, Sergeant Suresh Praveen, Sergeant Michael Beasley, Corporal Ishan Singh, Corporal Ricky Mujahid, Corporal Timmy Acosta, Lance Corporal Bruno Niedermayer, and Private Paul Beisheim, who deployed their newly upgraded Black Hornet M drone, which could fly until 2,000 meters and have a resolution of twice the quality of the Hasselblad H6D400C camera. When the 4 drones reached the area of Senevse Fortress, they captured several photos, and all of those contains essential information for the ANFSFG. The first pictures contained the appearance of the wyvern cages. Herkenhoff saw that there were 9 wyvern cages in the east side of the fortress. He assumed that there were 9 or 18 wyvern rider personnel inside this fortress. This would be the first objective for ANFSFG, to eliminate the wyverns before they got deployed. The second objective came when these pictures were sent to Sutton. The pictures contain the appearance of human soldiers and hybrid races such as centaurs, minotaurs, wood elves, moon elves, and animal humanoids, like Volraldans, kobolds, and leonoids. According to the information he acquired from General Keating, after he interrogated some of the Imperial soldiers, these hybrid races were the personnel of Knights of Kestrel, one of the elite units of the Zorzal's army, which consist of mixed human and hybrid races. Unknown to Sutton, these were actually elite soldiers in service to Cassiopeia, who was planned to use them as her private elite guards in her latest agenda, an agenda so secret that not even Zorzal himself knew about it. If ANFSFG were have eliminated or captured these so-called knights, it would demoralize every Imperial soldiers who were stationed in the fortress, and it would be easy for regular forces to enter the city. Not to mention put a big stake in the heart of Cassiopeia's plans. The third objective, and probably the last one, was that some of the photos shown several Imperial soldiers were seeing with some female teenager. Herkenhoff once again assumed that she could be a slave or prostitute from the nearby town, but he couldn't identify if Thar's slave was from this world or their world. Either way, they need to save her and the remaining slaves, if there was. The column of ZBL-08, one of it is a ZBD-08 command vehicle and the other 2 is a ZBD-08 armored reconnaissance vehicle, that carried the 9th platoon personnel, has arrived at the east side. As the command vehicle stopped, all of the 9th platoon personnel quickly exited from the IFV and began their operation. Before they used the grappling hook, Prigozhin connected his device to Sergeant Arakaki and Lieutenant Timur Glaskov's earpieces so he can give the command to eliminate the Imperial soldiers from the vantage point of the castle curtain, which connected tower to tower. "I need sniper support. 5 tangos above us." Prigozhin communicated with both Arakaki and Satov. "Got it," Arakaki replied. Then, Arakaki pulled the trigger of his new Macmillan TAC-338. And just from a distance of 2 kilometers away, he managed to kill 2 Imperial soldiers. To finish the job quickly, Glaskov's DXL-5 Lobayev sniper rifle killed the other 3 Imperial soldiers. "All clear," Satov reporting to Prigozhin. "This is Gusar 1, we are proceeding to the next move, copy," Prigozhin tells Sutton. "This is Golf 1, we also have arrived at the west side of the fortress." "Be careful, over," Sutton replied. Prigozhin briefly looked at the wall, which probably has a height of around 10 to 12 meters. Then, he shooted the GPHK-55 into the sky and made the hook from the weapon stuck on the top of the fortress wall. He pulled the rope off the hook repeatedly just to make sure that it stuck perfectly. Major Lay, Sergeant Rakhmid, used the grappling hooks. Prigozhin ordered them, so all the 9th platoon personnel enter the fortress quickly. Lay and Rakhmid used the grappling hooks at the same time. Then, they did exactly the same thing as Prigozhin did before, pull the rope to see if the hook has been really hooked. "Colonel, the hook has landed perfectly," Lay reported to Prigozhin in a heavy Mandarin accent. "Good. Now, comrades, follow me." Prigozhin waves his hand backwards. Then, he climbed up the wall and was followed by his men. "Be careful, dragons have good sense. So watch your step and keep calm if they start growling," he said while aiming his Alaska 108 equipped with one P-87 holographic sight. "Keep your heads down, everyone. Don't let the other guards see us," he added as he knows that there's still many guards that are still alive. 9th platoon was lucky because the wyverns were still sleeping. They know that wyverns were sleeping, because they could hear the loud snoring of that creature's sound. And of course, with the help of thermal detection from the Black Hornet drone that showed what movement do the wyverns make. As some of the 9th platoon personnel reached the top of the curtain of the fortress, Prigozhin ordered Lay to split up with Major Bassett, Captain Shinji, and Captain Satwalikar so that they can finish cleaning up this area quickly and save time efficiently. Prigozhin ordered some of his personnel to follow him, which are Major Kolikotronis himself, then followed by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Seneviv, Sergeant Neman Arakanis, Sergeant Viktor Zinkov, and Lance Corporal Mati Petronis, while Major Leif followed by Sergeant Major Rakhmid alongside 1st Sergeant Tiara Samosir, Sergeant Gao Shij, Corporal Dao Binbin, Corporal Dauphin Fuaji Prawira, and Private 1st Class Alicia Pramudatha. As Tiara approached one of the guard knights, she quickly subdued it while dragging the knight into the room where there was a stair that was connected to the lower floor. When Tiara dropped her body near the stairs, she curiously removes the helmet of the knight as she wants to know the face behind the mask. Turns out, the knight was actually a female. The female knight has short white hair with long strands to the left side. A female, huh? I almost thought you were a male knight. Tiara removes her helmet and mask. Looks like you and I are not different at all. When the helmet and the mask from Tiara's face were removed, she also had short black hair that only reached her ears, thus why everyone, including her superior, Evan, thinks she was a boy rather than a girl. Tiara, if you want to date her, do it after this mission is finished, okay? Rakhmid told Tiara to focus as he didn't want his men to get distracted. Fine, bro, Tiara replied with a sarcastic tone, then repositioned her pin.ss2. Rakhmid fully knows the personality of his subordinates. His unit is actually composed of his old friends from primary school, junior high, high school, and even college. Thus why he knows how to control them during duty. While viewing the surrounding view of this fortress with his binocular, Rakhmid sees the column of Chinese ZTZ-99A2 and ZSL-92B. Japanese Type 16 Maneuver Combat Vehicle, Mitsubishi Type 89 IFV, and Komatsu Lab, British-made Land Rover Wolf, French VBMR Griffin and Renault VBC, Russian ZSTS, T80BVM, and URAL 4320, Indonesian Pindad Anoa, Yugoslavian-made BOVM-16 Milos and BVPM-80, and American International Max Pro and Oshkosh LATV heading to the city while accompanied by 2 Agusta A129D Mangusta attack helicopter that owned by the Italians and 3 UH-60 gunship transport that owned by the Americans. According to the information that Rakhmid herded, the regular forces that were deployed to the city near the fortress were the 2nd Infantry Division of the United States Army, 1st Guards Tank Army of the Russian Ground Forces, 12th Brigade of Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, 4th Infantry Brigade and Headquarters Northeast of Australian Army, 72nd Group Army of People's Liberation Army Ground Forces, 6th Light Armored Brigade of the French Army, 5th Army Aviation Regiment, Rigel, of the Italian Army, 1st Brigade of Greek Army and 15th Infantry Brigade of the Indonesian Army. Rakhmid was glad that both the Italian Army and the United States Army were using black camouflage for the helicopters so that the enemies wouldn't know who was attacking them. But then, the column stopped and the helicopters begin to land in a safe place. They were waiting for the special forces to finish eliminating the backup troops from the fortress. This is Gusar 1 to Golf 1, we have neutralized the guards on the east side of the fortress. We will proceed to the south side, do you copy? Copy, Gusar 1, we have neutralized the north side too. We will move on to the west side. Sudden replied to Prigozhin, while behind him, the 13th platoon were tying the knights after making them unconscious. The 13th platoon were very lucky as they fought against the guards without any disturbance such as wyverns or the scents from elves or other animal humanoids that have a good hearing sense. Alright, let's roll out, comrades, said Prigozhin, as he led his personnel to the north side of the fortress. But he also ordered some of his men to stay to keep an eye on the captured knights so they won't go away. As Prigozhin looked below him, he saw some of the guards were still sitting and chatting near the wyvern cage. Didn't want to take the risk of waking up the wyvern, Prigozhin ordered his men again to use the tranquilizer gun on the Imperial soldiers. They were lucky that the Imperial soldiers were wearing Romanesque uniforms, which makes it easier for the tranquilizer to hit their bodies. Sergeant Zinkovsky and Corporal Valentin Bozhenko insert a dart gun filled and smeared with benzodiazepines fluid. Then, they shot those Imperial soldiers with the tranquilizer rifle. As a result, 4 Imperial guards guarding the wyvern cages fell asleep and started snoring loudly while lying on the ground, even some of them holding their spears like it's a bolster. Sweet dreams, said Corporal Ibozhenko, after he saw the sleeping Imperial soldiers. After clearing the wyvern stall area, Prigozhin's team alongside Lay's unit and Sierczynski's unit were regrouped and standed in front of a door, which led to the south side of the fortress. Rakhmed carefully opened the door while holding his rifle with only one hand. After seeing that there is no enemy presence, he told Prigozhin that it is clear for the 9th platoon to move. Through the hallway of the fortress, the 9th platoon personnel keep their composure to steady their weapon in case they meet the enemy in an unexpected way. "Check your corners. Make sure there's no one in there," said Prigozhin, as he began to lean to the left side while Rakhmed to the right side. When looking at the right side, Rakhmed noticed that there is a stair that led to the bottom section of the fortress. He assumed that this could be the way to the dungeon. "Colonel, I think." "A way to the dungeon," Prigozhin answered before even Rakhmed finished his words. "Yeah, should we move this way first, Colonel?" Rakhmed asked, as right now it would be the best time to rescue the prisoners quietly. Prigozhin sighed. From what Rakhmed saw, he knew that the colonel wants to end this operation quickly. But he feel that what Rakhmed said was also correct. Since no one known their presence, it would be good for them to extract the prisoners to safety right now. At this point, just like before, Prigozhin ordered Major Lay and Major Kolokotronis to stay on the position, while he and Rakhmed will go to the dungeon to rescue the prisoners. "Major Lay, Major Kolokotronis, bring your units to go to that door," said Prigozhin, as he pointed to the exit way of this hall. "Captain Sionipar, you stay here with your unit." Then, he looks at Rakhmed, "Follow me." Rakhmed follows Prigozhin from behind without any hesitation or complaining. As they go deeper, they vaguely hear the sound of a man laughing and a woman crying. Both men knew what this means. Before they reached the dungeon, Prigozhin took out a ZARYA-3 stun grenade from his pocket, pulled the pin, and then thrown it to the room where the targets were located. When the stun grenade fell to the floor, one of the Imperial soldiers stopped raping one of the slaves and looked at the object. "What is the?" Before even finishing his words, the stun grenade exploded and blinded 8 Imperial soldiers who were guarding the prisoners. Since Prigozhin was more concerned about the prisoners' condition rather than these Imperial soldiers, he alongside Rakhmed immediately killed the 8 Imperial soldiers with their rifles rather than taking them as prisoners. One of the naked female elves begins to move away from the dead Imperial soldiers who just raped her. As the blood begins to flow towards her legs, she immediately moves her legs so that the blood will not reach her skin and starts to tremble. "Check the bodies, there might be a key to unlock some of the locked cells," Prigozhin ordered his personnel. "I found it," Tiara replied. She then quickly opened the other 2 remaining prison cells and started rescuing the slave inside alongside Rakhmed. "Hey, are you okay? Can you talk at least?" Rakhmed said worriedly to the female human slave. Tiara touched the neck of the female slave to check her pulse, and then she could feel the pulse beat with her fingers. "She's still alive, Sergeant." Tiara looks back at Rakhmed. "Alhamdulillah, praise to Allah, bring her to the Komodo with Corporal Dauphin and Private Alicia." "Affirmative, Sergeant," replied Tiara, as she carried the female slave upstairs with Corporal Dauphin and Private Alicia. As some of the Indonesian and Russian troops were helping the slaves to get out of this place. Rakhmed was scanning the surrounding on what kind of races and genders the prisoners that this fortress. It turns out, there were 6 humans and 3 elves. For the humans, there were 4 females and 2 males, while the elves were all females. While inside the cell, Rakhmed was horrified when looking at the "counting days" sign on the wall that was drawn by the prisoners. Thinking if those slaves are actually one of the missing people during the Battle of Ginza, he felt terrible for not saving those people. Not to mention it has been almost 6 since their deployment in this world, and they could only save these people now. Then, Rakhmed also noticed that in one of the dead bodies of the Imperial soldiers, he could see an Omega wristwatch that was attached to its arms, which must be a war trophy for them from the captured prisoners from Earth. He walks to that certain Imperial soldier's dead body and takes the wristwatch. "Mind if I borrow this?" Then he put the watch inside his pocket. After that, he pulls out his suppressed Pinda G2 and begins to shoot the head of the dead body of that certain Imperial soldier thrice. "HMPH, you're still not changed, huh?" Prigozhin said after he saw what Rakhmed does. "Oh come on, Colonel, they remind me of my foes during high school times," Rakhmed replied. Hearing that, Prigozhin could only shake his head and then reminded Rakhmed that they need to focus on the mission. As they ascended from the dungeon, Prigozhin ordered the remaining 9th platoon personnel to follow him, while the others carried the slaves to where the 9th platoon vehicles are located. Before entering the north intersection of the fortress, Prigozhin made a fist sign with his left hand which mean, "Stop," to his subordinates. He does that because he just hears a slow but loud whimper. Then, from the distance, both Prigozhin and Stavros heard something that they and their fellow Russians and Greeks couldn't forget that night. "Please, no more," said one of the female slaves to the imperial soldiers who raped her. Without thinking twice, the 9th platoon personnel who could hear that know that it must be a Russian citizen who become one of the victims during the Battle of Ginza. "Get your hands off me, you monster," yelled another female slave in the Greek language. At this point, both Prigozhin and Stavros didn't know if they should stick to the plan or let their rage come out, as they couldn't just sit down and let their fellow countrymen abused like that. "Comrade Colonel, what should we do?" Zinkov said in a mix of confused and angry tones. Prigozhin knew that the Russian personnel in the 9th platoon would react like that. "We can't those bastards get away with this. We need to rescue them," Corporal Katrian Miraclis said to Stavros. In order to maintain professionalism and keep stealthy, Prigozhin and Stavros gives an idea to their personnel, only to his fellow Russian and Greek personnel. "Please include me and my personnel in this ambush," Todor said, as he wants his Greek unit to help because he and his personnel empathized with both his fellow Slavian brothers. "Well then, Seneviv, Zinkov, you two go with me." Sergeant Nikit Kudrina led Major Todor and the others to the upper floor. "We'll ambush those bastards." Prigozhin ordered Kudrina to lead both the Russian and Greek troops upstairs. "Stavros, you and your unit will go with me," he said while leading the Greek troops. After hearing the orders from her superior, Kudrina led the other Russian and Greek personnel to the top floor. When they reached the top floor, the Russian personnel began to take cover from the brick wall and wait for Prigozhin's order. "This is just between us and them, you do not need to interfere," Prigozhin said to Rakhmid, Basit, Sionipar, Foley, and Lay. For Rakhmid and the others, this was the first time they saw Prigozhin in such a wave of anger. They saw that his eyes was full of hatred right after they heard that the slave is speaking in Russian. In fact, not only they can feel the Russian rage, but they could also feel that both Greek and Russian troops were angry after what they just heard. Prigozhin alongside Stavros moved to the east side of the south intersection and starts taking a position. "Herkenhoff, I need a report on how many enemies are in the south intersection," asked Prigozhin. "Copy that, Colonel. There are around 150 enemy soldiers on the south intersection," said Herkenhoff, while he operated the UAV. "Are there any of those strange creatures in this area?" Prigozhin asked again. "Negative, Colonel," replied Herkenhoff. Prigozhin felt relieved, and then, he began to give a command. "On my signal, comrades. 1. The Russian troops begin to pull their Alaska 74M and AK-108's charging handle. 2. The Imperial soldiers still laugh out loud while they were raping those female slaves or watching their fellow soldiers raping them. The Greek troops started aiming their Zastava M21 at the Imperial soldiers. 3. Right after Prigozhin said, 3, all the Russian and Greek personnel opened fire at their targets, and just in 10 seconds, all of the Imperial soldiers in that area are wiped out. They didn't give any chance to the Imperial soldiers to scream for help or make a sound. All clear, Colonel. Kudrina reported the situation to Prigozhin. Good. Now, Zinkov, Stavros, secures her and the others. Oh, Sergeant Rakhmid, could you ask your colleagues to regroup in here? Prigozhin asked after he commanded Kudrina to take the Russian prisoner and bring them to their BTR. Of course, Colonel. Rakhmid replied, then he pushed the button on his earpiece and said, to all Tantaipur personnel in here. Return to the place where we find those prisoners. Colonel Prigozhin wants us to regroup to planning a new tactic. Affirmative, Sergeant, replied Tiara. Zinkov approaches the female Russian slave and touches her shoulder. Can you hear me? Are you a Russian soldier? Zinkov gently replied, yes, we are here to save you and the others. Oh, God, thank you, the female slave said while crying as she hugs Zinkovsky. Zinkovsky pat her shoulder to calm her down and make her sure that everything is all right, then he escort her to the location where the armored vehicles of the 9th platoon should be. Come on, it's not safe here, Arikana said. Thank you, said another female slave. Should we proceed with our next move, Colonel? Lei asked Prigozhin. Of course. Follow me. Prigozhin replied, then he presses his earpiece, for all Russian personnel on above, stay in there and follow our path. Roger that, Comrade Colonel, replied Kudryna. After Prigozhin receives the reply from Kudryna, Rakhmid asks him, Colonel, do you have any idea why the number of enemies inside this fortress is fewer? I thought they would have 100 to 900 soldiers in here. Because Prigozhin's emotion was gotten a little better after rescuing the prisoners, he answered Rakhmid's question without an angry tone, but still cold since he still can't stop thinking about how many of his people were used as a slave in this world. We have only seen the surface, Rakhmid. They could be hiding in these rooms or underground. Attacking a fortress like this is not easy, especially since we don't have any accurate intelligence about this place. Why didn't the High Command send some, well, CIA or SVR or DGSE agents to infiltrate the place before we do this operation? Rakhmid asked again. He felt that this feels strange as sometimes the High Command would cooperate with the intelligence agencies' heads. Probably because this is just a small fish for them. Because from what I heard, instead of sending them here, they were sent to the capital of the empire itself and some of the capital cities of other regions, said Prigozhin, as he explained the reason why the intelligence agencies didn't do any infiltration in both Zardost city and Senevsey fortress. Any reason why they missed this one? Rakhmid asked once again. I don't know. The only logical reason I could give to you is that maybe they think that the military could handle this easily without them, said Prigozhin. Fucking agencies. I kinda hate them, but in the end, we still need them. Rakhmid cursed a little. Let's forget about that. Besides, we are special forces units, we are meant to be nearly equal with them. Prigozhin said, this is Gusar 1 to Golf 1. We have extracted the prisoners to the meeting point. How's your status? He asked about the status of Sutton and his unit. GRGGH, the Imperial soldier starts gurgling foaming blood from his mouth after Kutyakova stabbed the soldier right into his throat and cartilage with her NRS-2 knife. Rest in hell, said Kutyakova, while cleaning her knife with the cloth from the Imperial soldier she just killed. This way, Sutton said while adjusting his M4A1 Sopmod Block 2 and approaching a huge wooden door in front of him. Knowing that not all enemies were taking a rest, which means some of the main doors were not locked, he opened it slowly and saw a path heading downstairs, to the west, ground floor, intersection. This is Gusar 1 to Golf 1. We have extracted the prisoners to the meeting point. How's your status? Prigozhin asked Sutton's status. We are still on the west side of the fortress. So far, we haven't encountered the Knights of Kestrel. How about you? Have you encountered them? Nah, just a bunch of regular Imperial soldiers, replied Prigozhin. We're out of luck. You say that like it's just another boring operation in Chechnya, Sutton said while leaning on the wall. Well, sorry to make you upset, Colonel Sutton. But if we could encounter these guys right now, it probably will our mission here more easy and fast. You know how worried I was to face again those creatures. They have the sense that is outside our capability, Prigozhin said, now using rank and last name instead of the call sign. He knows how deadly and annoying the elves, and demi-humans' hearing ability or orc and centaur monster strength. That's why we need to be careful. Now hold on, Gusar 1, I got tangos on my side. We'll meet in the center of the fortress, over, Sutton said, ending his conversation with Prigozhin. Herkenhoff, this is Colonel Sutton, give me the situation report on the west side. We got hostiles in front of us and I want to know how many are them. Roger that, Colonel. The UAV caught 36 hostiles in front of your unit. There are 14 humans, 5 elves, 4 centaurs, 4 minotaurs, 4 tieflings, 2 wolf-like demi-humans, 2 kobolds, and 1 siren. Herkenhoff reported the situation and the details of the enemies. He has learned the fantasy races classification from his fellow colleagues from the regular forces, Staff Sergeant Viermetz and Private First Class Kirstein. Almost equal to us, got that, Herkenhoff, Sutton said. Starker, Nanahara, you two bring your squad upstairs. Once you get to the top, wait for my signal. Oh, and, watch your ammo. Affirmative, Colonel, Starker replied. Then, he led his German unit alongside Nanahara who were with his Japanese unit to the upstairs in silence but fast. Tyndios Lunalis hissed with a face that showed a bored expression in front of his subordinates. Tyndios and his Impavitus unit rested for 2 weeks after they participated in 4th Imperial Repression Act against their vassals after some of the Empire puppet countries, which are the Kingdom of Tumaran, Kingdom of Krupan, Kingdom of Swebanian, and Kingdom of Waruovia are declaring independence after saying that the Empire are useless for not overcoming the enemies from the other side and using their soldiers as a meat shield for Empire. Their unit was recently fighting against the Tumaran soldiers and managed to put the youngest son of King Hadaneric, Dicios Kosas, as he is more loyal to the Empire, and kill the eldest son of the king, Erikios Kosas, who prefer to be independent of the Empire. "Do you want a drink, Praetor?" said one of the male Minotaurs to Tyndios, offering him a tankard of mead. "Of course," Tyndios said, grabbing the tankard, "thank you, Muxius." While drinking, Muxius asked a question to his superior. "Praetor, is there any chance that our unit will face the enemies from the other side of the gate?" "Of course. More precisely, we will have a chance to kill them, Muxius," Tyndios said confidently. "But, Praetor, is it true though that the other worlders are so powerful? I heard from the regular soldiers of the Empire said that 3 legions were annihilated just in 1 day by them during a battle in Alnus Hill," Muxius asked with a doubtful tone. "Well, I think that's bullshit. Remember, it has been 6 weeks since our army retreated from the land that was on the other side of the gate, and the enemy has resided in Alnus Hill since then. There's a possibility that they spreading their propaganda to the locals," Tyndios explained his opinion. Tyndios takes a sip of his mead again and then continues to talk. "But we can't underestimate them. If they could bleed us, then they are dangerous foes that we faced just like those damn warrior bunnies, but that doesn't mean it is impossible to fight them. We need new tactics and plans. So far, the Empire fight against them in an open field. I think that we should fight those other worlders in the city or fortress like this place. They could be doesn't have any experience in closed field battles," Tyndios said, then he sipped the whole mead and starts to talk again. "That's what I thought." After Tyndios said that, every of his Impavitus unit personnel were start listening to him. "I agree with your words, Praetor, and can I ask you a question again?" Muxius asked. "Sure thing," Tyndios said. "Sorry for saying this, Praetor, but if we lose a fight against them and then they somehow spare us, should we kill them as a chance?" Muxius said as he wanted to know about his superior opinion. "No, I will not allow it. If we put them in a good fight and we still lose, we shouldn't do that. It's the same as tarnishing our honor," Tyndios replied. "Look, I have seen what some of the other Impavitus units do. They pillaged villages in the name of payment for their duty or killed innocent civilians who didn't do anything wrong, whether it was human or non-human. Now let me tell you, is that what Impavitus stands for?" "No, Praetor," Muxius replied. "Exactly. To me, achieving honor is not by always winning the battle, but by how we could learn from our mistakes," Tyndios said again. Right after Sutton hears Tyndios' speech, he knows that this man could be useful as one of the volunteers, or indigenous unit, for the ANF, even though he doesn't know personally about him as he only listened to his recent speech and not dig up more of his personal life. "Starker, Nanahara, I will go face that Praetor with myself. I ordered you to lower your weapons until I gave the order to shoot," Sutton said as he wants to face with the enemy unit leader. "But, Colonel, you will get killed by them just in a second if you show yourself to them," Starker replied as he worries about his superior. "Trust me, it'll be okay." Then, the 13th platoon personnel could hear that someone from the Impavitus Knight unit that was in front of them are telling Sutton to get out from his hiding place. "Wait until I give an order to you all," Sutton said as he now walks slowly to the intersection. After Tyndios talks, he sees one of his elf soldiers looking in an unknown direction. "Natliatlin, what are you looking at?" Tyndios asked his female elf soldier. "I sense something, Praetor. Someone that is not from Imperial Army unit or adventurers," said Natliatlin, then she pulled the string of her bow and aimed it at the door where Sutton and his unit is hiding. "I know you're in there. Show yourself." All Impavitus Tyndios unit personnel begin to unleash their weapons and aim them in the direction where Natliatlin aimed her bow. Tyndios know what this means. Because during the time when Natliatlin is serving in his unit, if she senses the enemy's presence, the enemy is right in the place where she pointing it. "Hold your fire," Tindayos said to his subordinates as he unleashed his sword. From inside a small hallway, Tindayos could see a man in a very unknown attire raising his two hands while walking towards his Inpavidus unit alone. "You don't look like one of ours or even elite units from Arpale or Durazbiaka. Who are you?" Tindayos asked. "Who am I? I am just a soldier from the other side of the gate," Sudden said calmly. "What?" Some of the personnel of Tindayos' Inpavidus unit are shocked. "It's the enemy from other world. We must kill him right now," Praetor Muxius said while raising his huge axe. Tindayos gives Muxius and his subordinates a stop hand sign, and then he approaches Sudden. "Interesting, a soldier from the other world voluntarily comes in here and surrenders to us," Tindayos said while looking at Sudden. "Yeah, sucks huh? Being the person from the enemy side who was one of its soldiers that kill almost 1,000 Imperial soldiers and now somehow the person is surrendering to you," Sudden replied, "but hey, at least by capturing me, you would get promoted and then receive money and women from your superior, right?" He continued as he tried to be calm and do not want to reveal his colleagues quickly. "Well, to be honest, I would bring you to the head of Inpavidus Knight right now. But, after my years of experience in war, never I have seen an elite soldier would come to our place just to surrender, which means," Tindayos then unleashed his sword and pointed it to Sudden's neck, "you are in here not to surrender, right? How could you know that I am an elite soldier instead of a regular one?" Sudden asked as he is really confused about how Tindayos can see the difference. "Because a regular soldier would not come in here easily," Tindayos answered. "Now, answer my question. Are you in here to surrender or not?" "Fine, you have revealed my tactic," Sudden replied. "Boys, take down their weapons and don't kill them." Soon after Sudden said that, the German and Japanese units of the 13th Platoon quickly opened fire and successfully disarmed the enemies. The 5.45 by 39 mm and 5.56 by 45 mm even made Muxius' axe break into two pieces. "One step more and my boys will kill you and your men." Sudden threatened Tindayos and his subordinates, "If you dare to take a step again, remember that you just see that our weapons can make your weapons break into two pieces, imagine what might happen to your body." He added again, I can see you trying to use your magic." He aims his M45A1 CQBP at Natliatlan, then, after 10 seconds of silence, which resulted in Tindayos' subordinates were still standing and couldn't do anything, he continues, "Before you want to ask me what am I doing in here or what do I want? I will answer that question to remove your curiosity." Sudden then take a short deep breath and said, "Let's say that I am touched by your speech before." "What?" Tindayos was shocked. He couldn't believe that Sudden heard his speech without his knowledge. "You have been listening to my speech since earlier. Yeah, you talk about honor and how you refuse to pillage a village like the other Inpavidus unit, now that's the enemy I respected. How about this?" After Sudden said that, he throws out his M45A1 and then took out the M4A1 magazine in front of Tindayos and his personnel. Then, he puts his Bowie knife as a bayonet. "Let's settle this with a challenge. If I win, then you need to tell the leader of this fortress to surrender this place to us. But if I lose, we will be the ones who surrender from this place," Sudden said while holding his rifle with a bayonet to make it look like a sword. "So you want to do a dual sword against me? Well then, I always want to know the strength of otherworlder soldier," Tindayos said as he started to take a position. "Let us help you, Praetor. Leave us be, brother. This is a match between me and him," Tindayos said as he doesn't need any help in this fight. "Lower your weapons, soldiers. You all don't need to be involved. You all just have to watch," Sudden said as he ordered his men to not interfere his fight. Then, Tindayos and Sudden were walking in a circle for like 3 times. After they back into the same position, both of them were charging at each other. As Sudden's rifle bayonet and Tindayos' sword were clashing at the same time. Everyone was shocked. On Tindayos' side, they can't believe that the otherworlder soldiers are also good at swordsmanship, while on Sudden's side, they can't believe that a combination of rifle and bayonet is strong enough to hold against a giant sword. It's not strange for Sudden to know melee and hand-to-hand combat as he learns martial arts like the line combat system, Kyokushin Karate, and Kali Arnis. Especially for Kali Arnis, Sudden learns it from his fellow Filipino Special Forces colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Ravina of the Marine Special Operations Group of the Philippine Marine Corps. Tindayos quickly stepped back and swung his sword from left to right, shaping 180 degrees, then made a vertical attack. Luckily, Sudden was also quick at dodging it and rolled back. While kneeling, Sudden analyzes Tindayos' strength and technique by judging how he swings the sword and what kind of attack he does. As he expected, Tindayos' skills were very formidable compared to the other Imperial soldiers. No shit, he thought, as Tindayos himself is one of the leaders of the Inpavitus, the special forces equivalent of the Empire to the Earth Special Forces. But what makes Tindayos different from any other swordsman throughout the history of Earth is that his technique is very similar to the fictional character that Sudden saw, such as Mace Windu from Star Wars or Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. Knowing that he couldn't always use his rifle and bayonet, he chose to use a dirty way, using CQC martial arts. When Tindayos used another one of his moves, now swinging his swords vertically, Sudden dodged it and then started to hold the enemy commander's hand. While holding the enemy commander's hand with his left hand, he punched the enemy commander on vital points such as his chest and stomach. Tindayos didn't expect Sudden to use his punch, but judging by how he quickly switches from his weapon to his fists, he thought Sudden's weapon was not very durable against swords. Because of that, he understands his actions and considers them as not dishonorable. Even though Tindayos understands and allows Sudden to not use his weapon, he couldn't believe that Sudden could deliver a decisive blow against his body. He even thinks that Sudden has learned some moves from the southeastern Oriental territory such as the Qingdao dynasty, Horchian dynasty, Tasikputra Empire, or Watabuchi Shogunate, as his moves are the same technique that was used by the elite warriors of southeastern Oriental territory countries, but he remembers that Sudden is from other world. In Tindayos' mind, he realizes that there could be another southeastern Oriental territory in Sudden's world. Without Tindayos realizing, Sudden's already relaunched a decisive blow on his body by using a low kick technique. This made his fibula area bruised and cannot move freely. Such an enormous power and excellent technique, Tindayos said as he still analyzed Sudden's movement while clenching his fist. This person is different than any warrior I met. That's when Tindayos feels small in front of Sudden as he looked at him like he is an unbreakable wall. He even thinks that even if he uses his sword, he is still no match for him. He is on a different level, even though I will not win this fight. No, I cannot give up right now, my men trust me, said Tindayos. He quickly ran towards Sudden and tried to copy his low kick technique. But since Tindayos had a low movement, Sudden has easily dodged his attack and hits his neck using his knife hand strike technique. All of Tindayos' men were shocked, seeing how Sudden could easily hit Tindayos. Although they have seen him get beaten up in previous fights, they never see that their commander couldn't land a single strike on the enemy. Pete Preeter, Muxia said as he watched his commander beaten up repeatedly. He desperately wants to help him out. But he couldn't disobey his commander's order, which made him feel powerless. After landing so many strikes on Tindayos, Sudden successfully drains the whole energy from Tindayos' body. Then, he grabs Tindayos' neck to lower it, pushes his stomach with his right hand like he is lifting a cardboard box full of bricks with one hand and then strikes him down. Tindayos' vision becomes blurry when he lies on the ground. He could faintly hear Sudden tells him to get up. Get up. I know you won't give up this quickly, Sudden said while using body language by moving his hand as a sign to get up. Tindayos slowly rised up and back to his fighting stance like before. He tried to push his body limit as he began to run towards Sudden, ignoring the pain from his bruised legs. Both of them have brute strength, but Sudden has two capabilities besides his power, which were experience and knowledge. As usual, when Tindayos tried to hit Sudden's temple bone with his right-hand fist, Sudden easily dodges his attack and then launches an uppercut hit. Once again, he falls to the ground. His uppercut may not be as powerful as Mike Tyson, but still it made Tindayos dizzy and step backwards. Too bad I didn't bring popcorn in this fight, said Sergeant Austin. She then gets bumped by Sergeant Ortiz for not telling that kind of joke at this time. If only that beastman joins the fight, I would gladly help Colonel, Major Abdurakhmanov said. He feels disappointed that he didn't get a chance to fight one of the elite units of the Empire Army. Back at the scene, Sudden glanced at Tindayos, now lying on the ground again. He wished the enemy commander to surrender, but it was not as easy as it seemed, for the enemy commander got back to his feet and clenched his fists. "I admire your spirit, Praetor," Sudden said, calling Tyndareus rank. Tyndareus began to attack Sudden without any calculations and swing his fists to wherever Sudden's position is. But this time, he drained all of his energy by turning it so fast. Finally, Tyndareus could hit Sudden's body part. Unfortunately, even though he hits him, his fist lands on Sudden's arm which he uses to block the attack. But, this will end, now. Sudden tightly grabbed Tyndareus' shoulder with his two hands. His right knee quickly hit Tyndareus' stomach so hard that made him begin to inflate his cheeks to prevent the pain. Then, he gave Tyndareus another, semi-uppercut, with his left arm and swinged his right leg to give another low kick. As a finishing move, he used his roundhouse kick technique with his right leg again. It hits Tyndareus' head and makes him fall to the ground. One of Sudden's subordinates, Private First Class Escribano, was shocked as he knows the technique that his commander uses to defeat Tyndareus. It's the Shun Ren Dan technique that was used by Jin in Tekken, said Escribano, as he remembered the same move of the famous combos in Tekken. Since that video game is one of his favorite video games. Everyone was shocked when they look at how Sudden knocked out Tyndareus. Muxius alongside everyone who was on Tyndareus' unit thought the same thing. They thought that Sudden is a former Southeastern Oriental warrior. That move was been used by the famous Southeastern Oriental warrior and commander who hails from Watabuchi Shogunate, Sensei Tokikuni Yamakako. According to the gossip, Yamakako was a feared and respectable person in the empire. Even some of the top empire generals were admiring his leadership and combat. This is what makes Watabuchi Shogunate win the war against empire and gained respect from them, which is why they still keep their partnership. After Sudden took his weapons from the ground and puts them on the holsters that were attached to his combat gear, Tyndareus somehow back up on his feet again. But, when Sudden looked back at Tyndareus, he kneeled in front of him and said, "You win, a warrior from Otherworlder. I accept my defeat." Tyndareus said while looking at Sudden face to face, "Do whatever you want with me, but please, don't kill my men." Sudden approaches Tyndareus, who said, "I'm going to kill you." Then, he offers him his hand to stand up. "Get up. We still have one thing to settle." Yeah, I need you to tell the commander of this fortress to give up this place to us." Sudden helps Tyndareus to stand up by putting up his arm on his shoulder. "Actually, we can't do this alone. I will bring 2 of my men, you should too." He looked at where his unit were. "Stand still, Hudson. Ortiz. Follow us." Following what Sudden does, Tyndareus calls some of his men to follow him too. Muxius, Natliatlan, come with us. Hudson, Ortiz, Muxius, and Natliatlan were behind Sudden and Tyndareus. They started to walk and head to the war room where the Imperial Army commander must be. While walking to the commander's room, Muxius asked Hudson about Sudden's behavior. "Hey, Otherworlder. Does your commander always act like this?" Hudson looks back at Muxius. "Not much. He once becomes like this too during operation in Myanmar." "What is Myanmar?" Muxius asked. "You'll find out soon enough," Hudson replied as it was not the perfect time to tell the geography of Earth. Inside the war room, General Renapar Graicicus alongside his fellow commanders from Imperial Army, Legate Sparisus Gelipus, Legate Tullus Decrio, and Centurion Hadrian Ducena, and a special guest from Arpale Army, Minri Cadgon Bicels. Bicels was sent to this place under the command of Arpale Armed Forces Chief of Staff, General Durek Cobham. His mission was to rescue the missing member of one of the family members of the Alberich family, one of the 9 powerful royal families in Arpale. While for Graicicus, he was planning to retake the town of Italica after one of his scouts reported that only around 60 enemy soldiers were occupying the town. For him, now it's a good time to raid them. He did not want to wait much longer as he tried to take the city before the enemy could call their reinforcement. "General Graicicus, my legion is ready and waiting for your order," said Gelipus. "Good to hear that, Legate Gelipus. Now, onto my plan. I'm aware that the enemy has captured some of the villages near Italica. So, Legate Gelipus, I want you to capture these 5 villages. These villages would be good for our outposts. Then, I want Legate Decrio and Centurion Hadrian to move forward to Italica and flank them from each side. Do I make myself clear?" "Clear, General." "Good. Let's prepare everything tonight and end those filthy otherworlders once and for all. As Gelipus, Decrio, and Hadrian are talking at each other, Becells approached Graicicus. General Graicicus, do you think Viscountess Seriota is held there? Shouldn't we find her quickly and then do this mission? Asked Becells. Minri Becells, I know you're concerned about Viscountess Seriota. But now, it is a win-win situation if we attack Italica. Because once we take prisoner some of the enemy soldiers, they could tell us the location of her whereabouts. There's a possibility that the other worlders take her. But what if she didn't? Well, after we attack Italica, I promise to scramble some of my men to search for her in every inch of Alnus province. I hope you fulfill that promise, General. Then, they heard a knocking sound. Graicicus think that it could be his servant bringing the meals for him and the guests. Can you open the door for me? Graicicus asked one of the guards. Yes, General. Before the guard's hand reached the door handler, Sutton immediately kicks the door and makes it hit the guard. Hello, gentlemen, said Sutton, while he carried Tyndios. Then, both Hudson and Ortiz aimed their rifle towards the enemy commanders. Tyndios, you lost to this man, Graicicus said as he couldn't believe what he just sees. One of the competent commanders of Knights of Kestrel has been defeated. Who are you? You don't look like those bastards from Skyrim or Zalmar, Becells asked. Who am I? I am one of the soldiers who slaughters your people in Alnus Hill, Sutton replied. All of those commanders were shocked. They didn't expect the other worlders to move quickly into this area. Without thinking twice, Hadrian approached Sutton while holding his dagger. You bastard! I will avenge my brothers. Before even Hadrian reaches Sutton, Hudson kills him with 5 shots into the legate's chest. All of them were shocked as Hadrian was dead on the spot and they do not even let him say his last words. Technically speaking, his last words were, when he threatened Sutton. But that is not the last words they expected. They expected Hadrian's last words would be about how he dying slowly and begin to say that he loves his family and how proud he is to serve the empire. If you all do not want to die, then follow my orders. Why should we follow your orders, other worlders? Do you think you win the war? We still. Before Graicicus finished his words, Sutton quickly interrupts him. Let me guess, you still have around 1 to 3 million soldiers in each province, you still outnumbered us, and you still have so many wyverns out there that you can deploy, blah blah blah. Sutton said, then he snapped. You have lost about 100,000 soldiers just in 1 month and you still think you can win the war. By my calculations, we could defeat you just in 3 years, and it ain't a long time. Graicicus and his colleagues were shocked. Never in their life, they've seen a very confident enemy that dares to challenge the empire. General, please, we can't win against these people, Tyndios said. Hear that? You should listen to one of the leaders of your empire elite units, Sutton added. Golf 1, this is Ridgeback 1. We have captured all enemies who were in underground the fortress. We have lined up all of them in the courtyard. Major Bassett reported to Sutton. He was the leader of the South African unit in the 6th platoon. I see. It's perfect timing too, Sutton said while looking at Graicicus. Who were you speaking to? Graicicus is confused as he looks at Sutton talking to himself while holding a black mini box thing. Oh, I have a surprise for you, General. Would you please look outside the window? Sutton said to him as he wants Graicicus to look at his gift to the enemy general. When Graicicus saw what happened in the courtyard, he was shocked as he sees that all of his men were laying down their weapons and surrendering themselves to the other worlders. If you going to mention your men on the east side of the fortress, then I've got more bad news for you, General, they're all have been eliminated by my men, Sutton informed Graicicus. What? Why? And how? Graicicus become confused. Well, it's because some of my men can't resist seeing their people getting raped by your soldiers. And guess what? I allowed them to slaughter your men. Sutton said as he makes sure Graicicus that he is not playing around. After he said, slaughter your men, he pulled out his M45A1 from his holster and aimed it at Graicicus. Graicicus was shocked when Sutton aimed his weapon at him. At this point, he knows that he must make a quick choice right now. He doesn't want to die, but he also does not want to disappoint the Empire. Reading the facial expressions of Graicicus, Sutton knows what kind of words he needs to use to persuade the enemy general to be on his side. I have a proposition for you, General Graysicus. Work for us, and I'll guarantee you and your family's safety in our country. Sutton said as he now put his M45A1 on his holster and stretched his hand to Graysicus. Graysicus now has a dilemma. Would he choose to betray the Empire for his family's safety? Even though he has pledged loyalty to the Empire since he was a low-ranking soldier. But he does not want to get executed by the Empire too. All of the choices and the outcomes were spinning around his mind. Just tell me where your family lives. We will pick them up and bring them to you. But not right now. Sutton persuaded Graysicus more and more. The reason why Sutton was trying to spare top Imperial commanders as much as he can was that he has been tasked by Centurion Prime to recruit many local experts as they can, so the legitimate government in Italica will become more flexible and know more about the enemy's tactics, politics, economy, and territory. Yesterday, some of the captured officers of the Imperial Army from the First Battle of Alnus Hill, such as Legate Phaedrius Cyprius, Equites Lysandros Abercius, and Centurion Gulimus Capina, alongside an officer from Arpale Army, Millenary Pisasu Blackbart, decided to join to Italica's new army in exchange for protection and immunity. Sutton hoped that Graysicus would cooperate with him. Since an Imperial general joined the Italica's army rather than some Imperial commanders would cause a massive setback to Zorzal's regime. Then, the moment that Sutton has been waiting for is finally happening. My wife and my 2 children are in that city. Can your men bring them to me? Graysicus tells Sutton that his family is in Zardost City, the exact city the ANF had targeted. General, Legate Gelipus and Legate Decrio were shocked at the general decision to defect from the Empire. Once your people bring my family back to me, I will help you and your people, Graysicus added. Gelipus, Decrio, Donanti, and Bcels couldn't believe what they just heard. General Graysicus has decided to defect to the other worlders' side. As Sutton thought, they feel that this could create another major setback to the Empire army structure because they has lost 2 competent generals just in 6 months and one of them has been killed during their invasion of Earth. You have chosen the right choice, General, Sutton said. Then, when Sutton looks at the symbol that was attached to Bcels' chest, he quickly recognized that Bcels is an officer from the Arpale army. You. What? Replied Bcels. Don't tell me that you are in here to rescue Seriota, Sutton said to the point. What? How do you know? Bcels immediately unleash his sword and points it at Sutton. Where is she, you filth? Hudson and Ortiz reflexively pointed their rifle at Bcels, but Sutton quickly gave them a sign to put their weapon down. We have her in our base. If you want to rescue her, then you need to obey my orders. As off right fucking now, said Sutton, don't do anything stupid or my men will gun you down like a dog. You think I will let you order me like a slave? No. Before Bcels could finish his words, Muxius quickly hit him in the head and made him unconscious as he is irritated by his ramblings. He's all yours, other worlders, said Muxius, such a loudmouth. Gelipus, Decrio, and Donanti could only do is stand still and can't do anything as they saw that Graysicus alongside Tyndios and his men had allied with the other worlders. Golf 3, Golf 4, this is Golf 1. Need some more assistance in here, over. Sutton asked Gunnery Sergeant Nieves and Gunnery Sergeant Cochran to come over and help him escort the prisoners. Roger that, Golf 1. Replied Nieves. After that, Sutton looks back at Graysicus again. Before we go, I'd like to know the location of your family house in that city. As they waited for the ANF Special Forces group to accomplish their infiltration in the Senevse fort, the coalition troops tried to kill time by having conversations and getting to know each other. There were about 4,000 soldiers who were sent into this battle. But, it was reduced to 3,510 soldiers as each 30 of them were tasked to protect 11 villages that were close to Zardost City, while the other was tasked to protect 2 cities, which is around 80 soldiers per city. The names of the captured villages in the order in which they were captured are Cambaro, Maugakata, Bahataki, Kamsaske, Bisilos, Kawamsiuso, Kalalkargos, Petasak, Pineborough, Duskpass, and Galezdovo. While the name of the captured towns is Bleakwood and Krasminsk. The ANF just took all of those places in under 2 hours after their departure at 7 p.m., or 1900 hours in military terms. The same thing happened to the units that were sent to the Skayandwar Fortress and Kamiup Fortress. In conclusion, in just a few hours, the total of settlements that ANF had captured was about 34 villages and 7 towns. The units that secure the eastern front of Alnis, where the Skayandwar fortress located, is under the command of Colonel Fred Piley from the 25th Infantry Division of the United States Army, while the commander for the western front of Alnis is Colonel Felix Furziger from 10th Panzer Division of German Army. Interestingly, in this mission, the 1st and 3rd Recon Platoon also participated, as they have been seen as formidable units after some successful missions during their operation in the special region. Back on Earth, some military analysts who have monitored the war since the beginning were complaining about the ANF's decision to send a whole battalion just to capture one medieval city and fight against a medieval army, but some others were approving the ANF's decision, as they can't just send a platoon to capture the city and the fort at the same time. ANF's High Command main plan now is to capture the whole Alnis province in order to make the enemy forces far away from the gate itself, and is a sign to Zorzal's regime that they can't be underestimated. Not to mention, since Alnis province itself was bordered by 4 former vassal states, ANF hoped that this would be a major problem for Zorzal himself, as this will be a sign that the now independent kingdoms will join Italica's legitimate government in order to join forces against Zorzal. So, it's true that your people can do push AP without using a hand? Peregrine asked Kesikbayev, as he remembered hearing some of the American soldiers complaining that they couldn't do a push-up without a hand like their Russian colleagues. Of course, it is as important as riding a bicycle for us, Kesikbayev replied confidently. Can you show us how you doing it? Peregrine asked, as he is curious about that rumor. Sure thing. Kesikbayev placed his both hands on the ground, all of his fingers touching the dirt a little deep for a firmer grip on his body. Then, he lowered his body and extended his legs to form a straight line. Kalashnikov, Bail, can you help me by doing this thing together? Kesikbayev asked. Both Kalashnikov and Bail sighed upon hearing Kesikbayev's request, but they are not feel annoyed by his request, as they know that to show them that it is true, they need more people to perform it. Then, both of them also lower their body to align with Kesikbayev's position. After that, they started to do their push-up. At first, 3 of them do a regular push-up 10 times. Peregrine does not feel amazed, but he was impressed that even though the other worlders have a powerful weapon, they keep their soldiers in a fit condition, and what made him more impressed was that the other worlders have so many exercise techniques from simple to complex way. For the next step, 3 of them begin only to use one hand to do the push-up. This makes Peregrine shocked, as they can do that easily like it's nothing. In the final, 3 of them put both of their hands on their back and keep doing the push-ups 10 times. All of the 3rd Recon platoons were amazed when they see that, except for the Russian soldiers, who just nodded after seeing it. After seeing that, Peregrine finally believed that all of these Russian soldiers could do that type of push-up. On the other side of the parked convoy, Tikhomirov is hanging out with the Belarusian commander, 2nd Lieutenant Stanislav Dyakonov, and the Japanese commander of the 1st Recon Platoon, Captain Miyaguchi. I just received a report from one of my colleagues who were sent to do an offensive attack on the northeast and east side of Alnis province. He said that they almost reach Italica now, Tikhomirov said. The colleague he referred to was Major Denis Gavrinov. He is an officer in the same army formation as Tikhomirov, but he is coming from a different unit, which is the 60th Motor Rifle Brigade. My God, that quick, reacted Dyakonov. Yeah. Not to mention, they were lucky that we captured Italica before this mission. So the only thing they need to do now is regroup with them and report to the High Command. Said Tikhomirov, but that doesn't mean the northeastern front is easy to capture. There is a town near the Gulf of Alnalia called Magbarai, which is used by the Empire as one of their naval port. The reports said that the joint element units of the 29th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army alongside the 60th Motor Rifle Brigade of the Russian Ground Forces and the 8th Maneuver Division of Vietnamese Republic Army encountered problems while fighting there. But fortunately, the battle is finished in an hour after they capture the Empire Navy captain and kill the mage who is supposed to be the guardian that was hired by Zorzal's pro-war senators. I'm lucky that Rory and Lele, Dyakonov pronounced Lele wrong. It's Lele. Tikhomirov corrected. Right, Lele. Yeah, I'm lucky that they were on our convoy right now. I mean, without them, it would be very hard to fight against those mages. Said Dyakonov, I can tolerate fighting against terrorists or some kind of criminal organization group like mafia or whatever it is, but this. Fighting magicians like in video games. I'm not going to lie, but I won't stand a chance. I can dodge all of their spell projection, but I know that I have limits to dodge all of those. Just like an energy champion against mana champions, Tikhomirov chuckled as he responded to Dyakonov's words. Pretty close to that. Dyakonov chuckled too as he heard that. You always play those MOBA games like League of Legends or Dota 2, A long time ago, I stopped playing those games after I entered the military. Now I only focused on first-person shooter games. I don't know why I suddenly stopped. Maybe the only reasonable reason for that is because I have lost interest. Well, do you want to play League of Legends again after this mission? We can play casual if you want. Dyakonov invited him to play the game again to relieve their stress after this mission. I'll think about it, but thanks for the invite. Then, a static sound from Tikhomirov's walkie-talkie can be heard by him. Gold 1, this is Golf 1, can you hear me? This is Gold 1 to Golf 1, I hear you loud clear, Tikhomirov replied. Senevsay Fortress has been secured, tell Colonel Samuel Garcia that they have clearance to attack the city, over, Sutton continued, and, oh. I have a request for you. What is your request, Golf 1? I want you and your team to rescue the general's family in that city. Our captive in here said that his family live in a house near the Earl's castle. Earl, Tikhomirov confused. It's one of the nobility rank, lower than Viscount but higher than Baron, Sutton simply explained the noble hierarchy. I see. Roger that, Golf 1, over. Tikhomirov put down the walkie-talkie after finished talking. You guys better prepared, Senevsay Fortress has been secured, I will tell the colonel. Affirmative, Captain. Dyakonov saluted at him, alongside Miyaguchi too, and then they leave Tikhomirov and headed to their unit place to inform them that the mission will begin in a few minutes. Tikhomirov walked towards the direction of JLTV in front of the convoy where Colonel Garcia was. Colonel Samuel Garcia was been appointed by the ANF High Command as the commander for the Northern Alnus Front. He is a veteran of the Desert Storm, just like almost every American soldier in this place. He was been relocated from the 25th Infantry Division to the 2nd Infantry Division last year, thus making him become the commander of this front. Colonel Garcia. What is it, Captain Tikhomirov? Colonel Garcia replied while smoking a cigarette. We have a clearance to attack the city, now. Senevsay Fortress has been taken by the Special Forces. Affirmative. Thank you for telling me, Captain. Colonel Garcia dropped his cigarette and trampled it slowly. All right, everyone, we have clearance to attack the city, where Oscar Mike. Right after hearing that, all the soldiers in this place begin to pack their things and enter their vehicles. What does Oscar Mike mean? Lele asked Tikhomirov. Ah, in our world military, it means we are on the move, Tikhomirov replied. Wow, for such simple words, you people still can turn them into complicated words. Rory reacted to the meaning behind Oscar Mike. It was the Americans who invented those kind of words. The reason why they changed the real meaning of the command words into something complex is to make the enemy confused, Tikhomirov said. Lele quickly concludes. Now I see why your people are always winning the battle, Tikhomirov. Each soldier in your world always makes some secret code so the enemy wouldn't know of your next movement. Atta, girl. Campbell praised Lele while entering the Max Pro. In front of Garcia's JLTV, a Chinese ZLS-92B began to adjust its ZPT-99 30mm autocannon in the enemy direction. Major, we encountered 20 enemy soldiers, Corporal O. Waikung reported. The distance between ZLS-92 and the enemy soldiers was about 500 meters or 0.3 miles away. Are there any civilians there? Major Han Yuki asked. Negative, Major, Waikung replied. Prepare to engage, Yuki said. All units, this is Alpha Quebec -1. Split up into 3 directions and ambush the enemy without any hesitation. Over, Garcia ordered all units to split up. The American, British, and French units began to move to the west side of the city. The Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese, and Indonesian units keep moving from the south side of the city alongside the recon platoons. And the Russian, Belarusian and Greek units split into the east direction of the city. As an opening, Weikung successfully shoots the enemy soldiers with its autocannon, followed by the ZTZ-99 firing at the tower guard with ZPT-98 smoothbore gun. Seeing that the shots from the autocannon would make the city alerted, the infantry fighting vehicles and armored personnel carriers from each unit starts to speed up their movement. "Watch out for civvies, everyone," Garcia said through the intercom. Tikhomirov's Tiger was now leading in the front together with Yuki's ZSL-92 and Miyaguchi's Mega Cruiser. As they reached the city entrance, they began to park their vehicles near a building so they wouldn't interrupt the Chinese, Vietnamese and Japanese tanks entering the city. "All right, everyone, let's move," Tikhomirov ordered everyone inside the Tiger to get out. "I'll lust for some battle today," said Torig while grinning. Then, he opens the back door of Tiger and gets out. "Emroy need new souls tonight," Rory said while grinning too. "Where do you want me to, Captain?" Lele asked as he wants to get in the action, followed by Arpeggio who looks at Tikhomirov. "I want you to follow me," Tikhomirov replied. "We will go to the center of the city to rescue the general's family. I want you and your sister to make sure that there is no enemy mage in this city, okay?" "Okay," Lele replied. "Good, Basarova and Kudashov will provide you two a cover," Tikhomirov said to Lele and Arpeggio. Then he gets out from the Tiger. "Rory, Torig, Rihanna, don't get too excited, remember our mission in here." "I know, boss," Rory replied with her face smirking at Tikhomirov. Then, when she looks at the marching Imperial soldiers heading in their direction, she begins to run towards them and begin to slice them with her halberd. "Our Rory Mercury," said one of the Imperial soldiers before his life was been taken away. "Why would Rory side up with the other worlders," said one of the Imperial soldiers again before its life was been taken away. "Hey, look at me, filthy imperialist," Torig said loudly with a happy tone while chopping the Empire's soldier heads with his battle axe. As Rory, Torig, and Rihanna massacred the Imperial soldiers, the IFV and APC of Chinese, Japanese, Vietnamese and Indonesian units begin to unload the soldiers. Just a few seconds after those soldiers were out of the vehicle, they began to shoot the Imperial soldiers near them. Unfortunately, because of their ambush attack, some of the civilians were blending in with the Imperial soldiers since they were panicked that their city are being attacked. But on the other hand, some of the civilians who were trying to run away from the ANF soldiers were entering any building that was near them. This made the ANF soldiers a little relieved. But when one of the civilians can't enter the building and begin to put themselves on the ground and tremble in fear, the ANF soldiers quickly evacuate them to a safe place. This behavior makes them confused as they had never seen the enemy evacuate them from the battlefield. Earl Barris Reykjavik was the son of the late Earl Orari Reykjavik. He had become the ruler of this city right after the death of his father. His father died when he participated in the Empire's invasion of Earth. Since that, he swore revenge on the other worlders for killing his father and humiliating the Empire. To make his vengeance plan successful, Earl Reykjavik meted his best friend, Marquis Valos Prodhenu, ruler of Onas city which is located near the border between Alnas province and Aguakia province. In that meeting, he asked him for providing him with 1,000 soldiers for his legion. Wanting to help his friend, he successfully recruited around 4,000 new soldiers to be dispatched to Zardost city to serve under Earl Reykjavik's command. Consist of 2,000 knights with shields, 1,000 archers, 500 cavalrymen, 455 heavy infantry knights, and 5 mages. After acquiring so many new soldiers, he asked General Graysicus to lend him some of his best legatus to train his soldiers and prepare an attack against other worlders. Unfortunately, Earl Reykjavik's vengeance plan hit the big snag, as he was in a literal rude awakening. He woke up right after he heard the explosion sound that came out from the Chinese ZTZ-99, then followed by one of his guards that were knocking on his bedroom door loudly. He quickly reached the door and opened it. "What is going on in here? What happened to my city?" Earl Reykjavik asked. "My lord, the other worlders are attacking us right now," replied his guard. This made Earl Reykjavik shocked. "The enemy has reached his city already!" Exclamation mark. Wasn't the distance between his city and Alnas Hill about 35 leagues? He realizes that if the other worlders have reached his city, this means that the whole Alnas province has been occupied by them. In a few seconds, he began to panic as he still couldn't comprehend the situation he just faces now. He wonders what happened to Count Formal and Earl Clora Sanderhan. Could they have been killed by these other worlders? Yes, they must have been killed by them. Fueled by the thought of their death, Earl Rikidavan ordered his soldier to tell the head town guard, Rodolphe Gurgot, to do an ambush attack from any direction against the other worlders. Just you all wait, other worlders. I will kill every one of you. I will show you the might of the Empire's citizen against an invader like you, Earl Rikidavan said while he put up his clothes and battle suit. Before he can even wear his combat boots, suddenly his room is blasted by the 105 by 617 mm shell from M68A 2105 mm cannon that was used by M1128 Stryker of the 2nd Infantry Division. Because of the explosion impact, he was thrown right into the door and felt unconscious for a while. Earl Rikidavan vaguely heard the sound of UH-60 above his castle, then followed by a shooting and a person ordering something that was most likely an order for his colleagues. Thank God our Black Hawk is equipped with some rocket armament, Specialist Dave Scott said after he looked at the corpse of a mage. Before the Black Hawks were unloading the troops on the castle, one of the pilots, Captain Tim Handley, noticed the presence of a mage. The pilot quickly shooted the mage after he saw the mage start to raise its hand, which is a sign to perform a spell. He successfully killed the mage alongside 2 other castle guards. Listen up, everyone. Our objective here is to capture the ruler of this city. I heard this guy is pretty stone-headed, so if he keeps refusing to surrender to us and begins to attack us, you all have clearance to shoot him, Major Frank Spearman said. Sir, yes, sir, replied all of Major Spearman's subordinates. Major Spearman leads all of his men to enter the castle. Inside the castle, he ordered his men to check all of the corners as he is aware that the enemy would ambush them behind these doors. The second squad will handle the first floor, Colonel Garcia said on radio. Affirmative, Colonel, Major Spearman replied. As they reached the corridors, they see about 20 archers heading to the rooftop of the castle. Major Spearman ordered 4 of his men to eliminate them. The Imperial archers stood no chance against the American gunners as they were hit by the M4 carbines without even being able to draw a single arrow at the Americans. Check those rooms. We might find something valuable, Major Spearman ordered. Specialist Scott and Corporal Dave Acosta opened the first door they encounter on the 3rd floor. Inside the room, they find a pre-teenage boy alongside a female slave. Kid, get away from the prisoner, Specialist Scott said as he looks. The boy is holding some kind of handkerchief which seems he will use for the slave. Wait, hold on, I have done nothing wrong with her, said the boy while raising his hands up. We understand, kid, please, stay away from the prisoner. No, she has always been good to me. Just because my father always abused her doesn't mean she hates me. Take me if you want, the boy said loudly as he didn't want his slave to get hurt by the Americans. Are you an American soldier, said the slave. I am an American. I am a student, from the St. Cornelius. Major Spearman alongside his unit was shocked. After 6 weeks, they finally found at least one American prisoner in this world. The boy was also shocked. He now realizes that these soldiers are from the United States, a country that is constantly told by his family's slave. He always heard the stories about the United States from his slave, about their wonder, military power, society, etc. Not to mention, his slave also told him about what kind of other countries besides the United States is on Earth. Realizing that his father was fighting against the wrong people, the boy chooses to persuade his father that they came into this world not to enslave everyone, and the death of his grandfather was because the Empire didn't do any scouting or recon when the gate opened. But sadly, it didn't work. After the boy said that to Earl Rikidavan, his father, he became very angry and slapped his son's face, reminding him that it was the Earth country's fault for not submitting to the Empire. To make it worse, he confronted the American slave and begins to rape her while choking or slapping her face as a punishment for brainwashing his children. Are you the Americans that my slave always talked about? The boy asked. First, she is not a slave, kid, and 2, yes, we are the Americans, Specialist Scott replied. See, can you take me with you? The boy asked again. What? Sorry kid, we can't just take you without any reason. Better yet, you should have stayed in here. Specialist Scott said, as he did not want to take the boy and asked him to not be involved too much in this. No, wait, listen, I know where my father hides the other worlder's slave. Right after the boy said that they became interested. Major Spearman asked the boy about the whereabouts of those slaves. Follow me. They are in the basement of this castle. Looks like this is the place, Tikhomirov said, looking at a medieval house made of terracotta. In this section of the city, all of the buildings are made of terracotta bricks instead of stone like the buildings that were in the outskirts of the city. These terracotta buildings are also close to the Earl's castle. Hello. Is the wife of General Graysicus here? Tikhomirov knocked on the door slowly. No answer. Hello. Anyone inside? Tikhomirov asked again. Behind the door, Graysicus' wife and daughter hug each other tightly. Graysicus' wife let her back face the entrance door so that if the enemy attacks them, at least her body will slow their movement and give her daughter time to run. Plan B, Tikhomirov sighed. He then shoots at the door handler's area to make the door lock and its handler break so he can easily kick it. Tikhomirov's squad swiftly raid the house and finds out that Graysicus' wife and daughter are trying to hide in the corner of the dining room. Please, please don't kill us. Have mercy, Graysicus' wife pleads loudly. We are not here to kill you. Listen, are you the wife of General Graysicus? Tikhomirov asked in a quick tone, indicating that he wanted her to answer the question right away. Why yes, I am his wife, Graysicus' wife said. Good. Your husband is waiting for you. Follow us, please, Tikhomirov said. My husband is with you all, Graysicus' wife asked. Yes. We don't have much time, madam. We need to leave this place, right now. Tikhomirov stated again at her to move quickly. Basarova, Kudyshev, Kalashnikov, cover her. Then, Tikhomirov's squad exits the house and alerts his fellow 3rd Recon Platoon personnel to move out as they got the target. Now the mission for the 3rd Recon Platoon is to escort the general's wife into safety. Golf 1, this is Gold 1. We have secured the target, over, Tikhomirov reported to Sutton. As the 3rd Recon Platoon personnel walked back to their vehicles, they could see some of the Vietnamese T-72CE tanks try to enter the plaza slowly alongside the Chinese ZTZ-99. Behind those tanks, the armored vehicles and the infantry fighting vehicles of the Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, and Indonesian units followed the tanks from behind while being escorted by the soldiers. Before they could reach their vehicle, Lele and Arpeggio suddenly stopped and Arpeggio quickly unleashed her magic shield spell. Just as they expected, there was a mage who tried to attack the convoy from the top of those terracotta buildings. Thank you, said the Vietnamese tanker at both Lele and Arpeggio. Sister. Now, Arpeggio shouted, giving a signal to Lele. Lele used her telekinesis ability by lifting some of the stones that were used for the road in the city. She then moves her staff to make the point of her staff directing to the enemy mage. Some of the stones successfully hit the enemy mage and the mage quickly fell down from the building and landed in the alley. I can't believe it. The other worlders have those Rondel mages on their army. The mage said. She regains her consciousness and returns to the battle. When she got out of the alley, her right leg quickly got hit by the 7.62 by 51 mm NATO bullet that come out from the PKM machine gun of the T-72CE tank, which injured her and makes her fall to the ground again. To make the enemy mage didn't stand up again, Lele unleashed her new spell that did not come from her master, Kato, but instead, her new spell was from the books that other worlders give to the natives in this world. The books that Lele read was providing information and knowledge about gravity laws, a fundamental interaction between all things that have mass, found by a man named Isaac Newton. What are you doing? The enemy mage feels that her body is becoming heavier and more attracted to the ground. Seeing what Lele did to the enemy mage, the Vietnamese tank reported to all units present that this was Lele's signal for the ANF personnel to capture the enemy mage. Hearing the information, the Japanese commander unit, Lieutenant Colonel Shinosuke Miyatake, immediately ordered his men to follow him and proceeded to capture the enemy mage before Lele used up all of her mana. Ikuzo, let's go, barked Lieutenant Colonel Miyatake. He alongside his men slowly approached the mage and began to apprehend her by putting some bag on her head that is always used by the terrorists to take a hostage. He also ordered his men to hold her hand tightly so she couldn't summon more spells. You all bastards. Let me go, screamed the mage as she tried to resist. As the mage has a voluptuous body and huge breasts, one of the Japanese soldiers couldn't resist looking at her breasts as it jiggle around when he alongside the other Japanese soldier grabs her and takes her to the APC. Not wanting to miss this view, Kurata quickly filmed her with his camera. "See that, Lieutenant? Do you see that?" said Kurata, after he saw the captured mage pass him. "I know, Kurata. But if you don't mind, let's focus on the fucking mission, okay," sighed Eric. For the first time, he felt more focused on the mission rather than playing around. Even though this world is actually a place he dreams of visiting. "Oh, come on, Lieutenant. Can it, Kurata," snorted Kuribayashi. When Tikhomyrov successfully escorted the target to safety, he begins to give a new order to Kutashov. "Kutashov, I want you to bring the general's wife and his daughter back to the Senevsey fortress. Once you are done, come back here again, okay," Tikhomyrov said. "Affirmative, Captain," Kutashov saluted. Before getting into the driver's seat, Kutashov put the safety belt on Gracicus' wife and daughter just in case their vehicle suddenly stopped in the middle of the trip, which would make the passenger hit the front seat. "Belt first," Kutashov said while applying the belt to Gracicus' wife and Gracicus' daughter. "All right, one objective has been completed. Now the next one," Tikhomyrov said, returning to the battle. The south, the west, and the east sides of the city have been surrounded by the ANF forces, leaving no gap for both the town guards and imperial soldiers to escape from the city. At the same time, the north side of the city was being swarmed by the German Tiger copters and American Blackhawks. A report from one of the Italian pilots said that before they flew to the north side of the town, they had successfully neutralized about 1,000 enemy soldiers from the east side of the city after they detected a suspicious movement from there. This meant that the unit led by the Legate Gelapis has all gone. Even though they managed to escort the civilians into a safe place, unfortunately, collateral damage still happens as the flying debris from the Earl's castle caused by the Chinese projectile hits some of the civilians who try to run away from the battlefield. "Saddler Grizzly, this is Fresco Sierra. We are in the Earl's castle and found our captured citizens here," Major Spearman said via radio. "Fresco Sierra, this is Saddler Grizzly. How many are them?" "Copy," Colonel Garcia asked. "About 23 people. 15 of them are our people and the remaining of them are 6 Japanese and 2 Russians." "Over," Major Spearman replied. "Roger that, Fresco Sierra. You have the clearance to extract them to Fort Ginza now." "Over," Colonel Garcia replied. "Our boys have rescued our people in that castle. We should have no trouble reaching the center of the city now," he continued. "Check those corners, soldiers." Right after Garcia said that, all of the American soldiers began to check the surrounding buildings, just in case the Imperial soldiers did a surprise attack. "Remember, we couldn't check all of each house in this freaking big city. Just keep forward and watch your surroundings." The Imperial soldiers and the city guards were been annihilated by the American, German, and French units from every direction without giving any chance from them, as the ANF wanted this battle to end quickly. The only reason that prevents them from capturing this city soon is that the size of Zartost is about 1,800 square kilometers, approximately 444,789 acres, almost the same as Houston's city size in Texas. Despite the density of the buildings, the road in this city still managed to accommodate the armored vehicles of ANF to pass by. However, because the width of the road was only about 7 meters (22.9 feet), the tank gunner or the armored vehicle gunner was worried, as it was a bad idea to bring a vehicle into the middle of the city during urban warfare. All of the ANF soldiers realized that despite the enemy only using swords or bows and arrows, they know this world is still full of secrets that haven't been solved yet. They hypothesized that there is a high chance for the enemy to use another weird weapon that is as deadly as their weapons. Right after ANF stepped their feet into this world, they knew that day after day they were in this world, new challenges would appear. Like it or not, they need to face it. When the American, German and French units almost reached the city center, Colonel Samuel Garcia ordered his soldiers to check every alley and report at least every 5 to 7 minutes. Not even a minute has passed, and one of the American squads led by First Sergeant Raymond Pritchard has encountered an enemy squad in the alley. Without hesitation, Sergeant Pritchard and his men began to kill them. Inside the building around the ANF unit, all Zardost citizens were hiding behind their door, under the bed, inside the cupboard, or under the table. Hell, even there was a mother who hugs her children while the father holds a sword until the intruder opens the door. I'm scared, Mom. Everything is going to be alright, sweetie. They won't come. Right after the mother said that to her daughter, another sound of carbine rifles heard again, followed by a scream, which mean the ANF soldiers have just killed another Imperial Army or City Guard squad. All of the Zardost citizens began to speculate, was this their punishment for being too arrogant against their gods? Does Hardy send these soldiers? Or maybe Emroy? Or could it be Luania's doing? Zardost was been known as one of the earlier cities in the Empire's history. This was the first capital of the Empire before being moved to Sidera. 1,000 years ago, this city was once ruled by the High Elves before being raided by the horde of goblins and later by the Empire during their conquest. The city has been under the Empire's rule for about 600 years. Today, this city are now under ANF's control. Once this city was under their hands, Zorzel will lose one of main city hubs and his last stronghold, from which he launched his guerrilla warfare and reenacted scorched earth policy. Without it, he has no chance to cause any harm to Alnus province, aside from violating its borders, that is. Meanwhile, the legitimate government will have the place and time they need to form their own army, created not just from loyalists but from other inhabitants of the province, including the Beast Men. This was the main goal of the operation, Hannibal, to fully secure the province, crush Zorzel's attempt to cause to it any damage and to allow the Pena loyalists to form the army of their own in order to finally put a stake into pro-war party's heart. I think that's the last of them, First Sergeant Pritchard said while moving the enemy corpse's head with his feet. He did that to confirm whether the enemy was dead or not. Still not sure that the enemy is dead, First Sergeant Pritchard does a double tap, a technique to shoot the enemy again even if they are deceased and lying on the ground. First Sergeant Pritchard and his men ruthlessly dump their one bullet onto the corpse of enemy soldiers. From the different side of the city, Rory widened up her hands and legs as she retrieved many fallen warrior souls. Emroy, today is another one of your gracious days, please take their fallen souls, she said while holding her halberd and the blood that covered almost her entire body. When Rory looks to her right side, she saw Torrig ruthlessly chop the head of an Imperial soldier with his battle axe into 2 pieces. For the first time, he can see the difference between good and bad humans. To him, the only humans he respected were these other-world humans. During his lifetime, these other-world humans are the first humans that helped him, even treating him like a human. This is proven more when he looks at how the other-worlders treat fellow dark races like him, such as a tiefling and lizardfolk at the Mob Alnus Hill. After Torrig drops the pieces of the head of an Imperial soldier, he and Rory look at Tikhomirov, who approaches them after escorting the family of General Graysicus. Rory, Torrig, give me a report, asked Tikhomirov. Well, what does it look like, Captain? We just killed an entire Empire army unit, Torrig said while putting his battle axe on his right shoulder. Tikhomirov's eye scans the surroundings and sees about 28 dead Imperial soldiers. All of them are killed in a sadistic way, some of them are cut in half or their head decapitated. After a few months in this world, he finally sees how wild and cruel the fantasy world is. He is relieved that Torrig and Rihanna can recognize the difference between Imperial soldiers and civilians as he sees no dead innocent people. I'm glad that you guys did not kill the townspeople. Now, we need to regroup with our unit. Colonel Garcia said we will become the spearhead in this battle to clear the north sector. Said Tikhomirov, you all do not need to worry, this area will be handled by Colonel Garcia's men. Then, Tikhomirov pressed the button on his walkie-talkie and began to talk to the other 3rd Recon platoon commanders. Eric, Conrad, Weidman, this is Captain Tikhomirov. Colonel Garcia wants us to secure the north sector with the 1st Recon platoon. I want you all to regroup in the plaza ASAP, said Tikhomirov. Then he heard so much, affirmative, after he said that. Rory, Torrig, Rihanna, follow me, Tikhomirov ordered them. Behind them, Basarova and Kalashnikov were also following them while checking their 6. When Tikhomirov approaches his unit, he tells them to move to the plaza site and wait for the 1st Recon platoon. While waiting for the 1st Recon platoon in the plaza, they received an attack from the north side by the archers of the Imperial Army. Arpeggio, cover us, barked Tikhomirov. I got you, Captain, Arpeggio replied. She began to chant a bubble magic shield to protect the 3rd Recon platoon from enemy projectiles. Just like in video games, the enemy projectiles can't get through, but for the mage's ally, their projectile can get through. This magic shield would give us time for 1 minute. Is it enough, Captain? Arpeggio said. More than enough, Tikhomirov replied while he fired his AK at the Imperial soldiers. He successfully kills 9 Imperial soldiers. Grenades, shouted Weidman, as he pulled out the pin of a DM-51 grenade and threw it in the direction where the enemy squad was located. When the grenade exploded, it killed about 12 Imperial soldiers and wounded 6 Imperial soldiers. Nice throw, Weidman. Conrad praises Weidman after the grenade that Weidman threw manages to kill dozens of Imperial soldiers. Tikhomirov heard loud running footsteps from behind. When he looked at the source of the sound, he saw the soldiers from 1st Recon platoon. Glad to see you again, Novoseltsev. Tikhomirov was relieved after he encountered his comrade, Captain Novoseltsev. You too, Tikhomirov, Novoseltsev replied while he continued to fire his AK-74M in the enemy direction. Everyone, I just got a new order from Colonel Garcia. We will push to the north until Blakenstadt village. It is the nearest village to the border of Aguaquia province and Campotania province. The distance is about 37.9 miles from our position, said Captain Armstrong. That's about 61 kilometers, said Tikhomirov. All right then, everyone. Return to your vehicle. Let's go. Let's go. Tikhomirov waved his hand and led the unit alongside Captain Armstrong. The 1st Recon platoon and 3rd Recon platoon began to mobilize to the north direction of the city. Major Spearman followed Earl Rakedaven's son's direction to the basement where Earl Rakedaven kept all of his slaves. After a 2-minute trip, they finally reached the door that leads to the basement prison. Are you sure this is the place where your father kept the slaves? Major Spearman asked. Trust me, Sir American. I know every inch of my house. Do not underestimate me because I am just a 12-year-old, Earl Rakedaven's son replied. After hearing Earl Rakedaven's son's validation, Major Spearman nodded at his men. I'm setting the charges. The timer is 10 seconds, Specialist Scott said. Get to the safety, kid. We will destroy this door. Corporal Acosta said to Earl Rakedaven's son. Earl Rakedaven's son nods at Corporal Acosta and follows them to the safe place before the breach explodes. As the breach exploded, Major Spearman's squad began to enter the basement prison room. From his eyes, he could see that there were about 8 prison cells inside that room. Search these cells. We might find some of our enslaved people in here, Major Spearman said to his men as he began to check the first cell that was on his right side. When Major Spearman looked at the cell that he checked, he saw 4 slaves that were chained on the wall. It seems there are about 2 cat peoples, Nikos, and 2 humans inside this cell. We're lucky that we brought the metal buzzsaw, Major Spearman said as he took out the metal buzzsaw that attached to his waist and began to cut the iron bars. According to his thoughts, it would take about 15 minutes to cut through all the iron bars that were used as the prison cell door. So, to speed up their work, Major Spearman asked Specialist Scott to help him cut the iron bars. Yes, Major, Specialist Scott said as he assisted his commander by cutting the other side of the prison cell with the metal buzzsaw. Hey, kid, Major Spearman said to Earl Rakedaven's son while cutting the metal, by any chance you have the key to unlock these prison cells along with the ball and chains for the prisoners? Unfortunately no, Sir American. Earl Rakedaven's son replied while he felt embarrassed as he did not do enough for these American soldiers. No problem, Major Spearman said while he continued to cut the iron bars. Honestly, he felt disappointed with the kid's answer. Major Spearman and Specialist Scott successfully cutted the iron door of one of the 8 prison cells. Then, they approached the slaves and began to cut off the chain that connects to the ceiling with the buzzsaw again. Sounds unpractical and reckless, but they did not have time to wait as somehow Major Spearman's squad did not bring a lockpick, which was very important to unlock the chains. Luckily, the distance between those slaves was pretty far and it was safe enough for them to cut it with buzzsaw. About 1 hour and a half later, one by one, the slaves were finally freed by Major Spearman's unit. Unfortunately, since the wrist lock was still attached to them, Major Spearman decided to unlock the wrist cuff when they arrive at the Mob Alness Hill. Then, they began to be escorted by the soldiers to the landing zone where the helicopters will pick them up. Since Earl Reekydaven's castle interior was straightforward, it would not be a huge problem to go to the landing zone on the rooftop. But, since this was a 4 stories castle counting from the ground floor, their problem was that it would exhaust them a little bit. The slaves that were freed by the American soldiers inside Earl Reekydaven's castle numbered 30 people. 23 of them were humans and the other 5 were cat people, Nikos. It was a huge achievement for them after they were deployed in this world for 6 months. They finally found one of the places that kept many Earth people whom the Empire captured. The rescued slave from fantasy races is just a bonus for good ANFPR to the non-human races in this world. Unable to risk any more casualties, Major Spearman ordered his subordinates to escort 5 slaves under the protection of 7 soldiers. However, since he also didn't want everyone to be in one line, he ordered them to go to the castle roof with a 10-minute gap per group. "First squad, you guys go first," Major Spearman ordered. Right after hearing Major Spearman's order, 7 American soldiers escorted 5 out of 28 slaves from the basement prison to the rooftop of the castle. It was not easy since half of the slaves were in a weak condition. Even one of the slaves must be carried by 2 people because they are in a severe condition. Just in about 10 minutes, they managed to reach the castle's rooftop easily since all the castle guards on each floor have been eliminated by them, leaving no prisoners. One of the soldiers in the first squad began to light up the green smoke flare as a signal for the helicopter pilots for the LZ location. A few seconds later, after the green smoke flare had been lit up, a UH-60 landed on the rooftop. Thankfully, the castle's rooftop was big enough to land a helicopter, so as the Black Hawk landed, the soldiers began to load the captured slaves into the helicopter carefully. "All set," said one of the soldiers from first squad, giving a signal to the pilot that they have clearance to leave and escort the captured slaves to the Mob Alness Hill. Without any hesitation, the pilot flew the Black Hawk in the direction of the Mob Alness Hill, leaving Zardost City. The 3rd Recon team kept moving forward in the north direction where the Blakenstedt village was located. To speed up their movement, they decided to get out of the city first and move around the city from south to north. Why did they do that? Because there were so many narrow roads inside the city, they do not want to take the risk of doing collateral damage either to the civilians or the buildings. Since the city itself almost has the same area size as Houston, they were already taking about 1 mile, about 1.6 kilometers, of Zardost City. It would take about 30 to 40 minutes to reach the Blakenstedt village since the distance between the 3rd Recon platoon position and the village itself is about 37.9 miles. Inside the Gas Tiger, Rory complains. Why did you order me to return to the vehicle? Can't you see that there is a huge battlefield in front of us and now we just leave it like nothing? Protocols, Rory. Also, we plan to besiege this city just like the bandits did to Italica, Tikhomirov replied. 10 minutes later, they could hear the sound of helicopter rotors from behind. From the NVG that Staff Sergeant Kuznetsov wore, he shouted. "The reinforcements have arrived," he said as he pointed at the Russian Air Force's Alligators and the United States Army's Black Hawks reinforcements. Hearing from the radio communications, Conrad quickly orders 2nd Lieutenant Baker to light up green smoke to signal friendly force movement. Captain Rundle and Captain Markov has got the signal as they do not feel suspicious again about the strange smoke movement in the city's south side, which they thought was the movement of enemy cavalries. At the same time, Rundle's F-16 and Markov's Su-37 launched the Joint Direct Attack Munition and KAB-1500 SE glider bombs. Both of those bombs successfully hit the barracks and armory that were owned by the Zardost City Guards and Imperial Army. Of course, in this attack, collateral damage did happen, as the bombs that destroyed the barracks and armory buildings caused debris from these buildings to fly throughout the city. Fortunately, the explosion impact in the area where the flying debris will land is far away from the ITFA troops. A few minutes later, 2 Mi-17s and 2 Black Hawks fly past the 3rd Recon platoon convoy and land on the north side of the city, beginning to unload the American and Russian troops. Tikhomirov speaks to Rory. "Rory, I know you want to help our troops, but we must stay still to the objective, okay," he said, looking back at Rur. His right hand pointing his index fingers above while his left hand is driving the armored car. "I know, boss," Rory rolled her eyes but still smiled. Her body begins to tremble not because of fear, but because she can't wait to enter the battlefield again. When the time reached 0100 military hours, the 1st Recon Platoon and the 3rd Recon Platoon finally reached the Blakenstedt village. But, sincerely, because the Battle of Zartost was near the village itself, the villagers quickly hide in their houses when the ANF platoons arrive at their settlement. Thinking that they will become the next target. Tikhomirov realized that this is going to be hard, but it was worth a try to convince the villagers that they are not a threat. With full of confidence, Tikhomirov exits the vehicle and walks slowly to one of the villagers' huts. By using his backhands, Tikhomirov slowly knocked the door. He put his assault rifle on his back so the villagers would not see him as a threat. A few seconds later, the door that Tikhomirov knocked is open and reveals a small family, a father, a mother, and 2 children, one is a boy and one is a girl. In the father's eyes, he could see a strange soldier with a scary uniform. It's like the dark green of the uniform itself is blending into the darkness of the night. With a calm voice, Tikhomirov lifted his hands and tried to calm them down and began to speak in Siderian. "Do not worry, we are in here not to kill you." After Tikhomirov said that, the father slowly lowered his knife, but very slowly. He was still not sure if Tikhomirov would spare him and his family or not. Without making another step, Tikhomirov keeps calming them down. "Listen, you do not need to be afraid of us. We are in here to protect you. Right now, there is a huge battlefield near your village, and I want you and your family to go somewhere safe." Somehow, Tikhomirov's words were convincing enough for them that the father now put the knife on the table and started grabbing his wife and children and dragging them along, but slowly, following Tikhomirov's directions. Inside the chief village's house, where the chief village himself and some of the villagers are hiding from Tikhomirov's squad presence, the chief village peeking behind the window to see the situation outside. From the chief village's eyes, he could see that one of the families of this village is confronted by ANF soldiers, but what makes him shocked and feel a little bit relieved is that those ANF soldiers did not kill the family. Without thinking twice, he volunteered to get out of his house and approach those soldiers. As the chief village steps out of his house, Tikhomirov quickly looks at him and approaches him too. The chief village neither ran away nor attacked the ANF soldiers. Instead, he begins to speak. "Who are you people?" Realizing that these people must be confused about their presence and their intention here, Tikhomirov started to explain who they are despite the situation. "Look, sir. Let me make it quick for you, we are from the other side of the gate. Have you ever heard of it from the imperial soldiers? About the strange gate in Alnus Hill?" The chief village calmly replied. "Yes, I have heard about it, so you are the invader." "Whatever you said, chief." Tikhomirov rolled his eyes. "Look, I do not want to be harsh with you, but I want you and your villagers to evacuate to a safe place. This place is a danger zone, there could be explosions around here, and we don't want any casualties of innocent people like you." Strange, never in my life have I seen an invader or attacker of the empire want to rescue people like me. From the stories I heard from village to village, the empire's enemies prefer to kill and pillage us as an act of revenge. Then, the chief village continued, "Well then, I trust you all, strangers." Then, the chief village began to shout to his fellow villagers that they need to get out and convince them that these soldiers aren't a threat to them. While gathering the villagers, Tikhomirov received a report from the drone unit that their UAV managed to capture the movement of Imperial forces from the north side, to be exact, from Agwakia province. It seems that some of the Imperial forces in this city managed to escape from the attack and alert the Imperial forces stationed in Agwakia province to help them. "What? How much time do they need until they arrive in this village?" Tikhomirov asked one of the drone unit operators. "The ETA of the enemy convoy is about 30 minutes, sir," said one of the drone unit operators while controlling the Boeing Insitu Scan Eagle drone. Tikhomirov changed his radio frequency to the artillery unit that was tasked to help both the regular forces and special forces. "Gavin 2-2. Zulu 1-6. This is Gold 1. I request an artillery strike at the north of Blakenstedt village," he said while adjusting the coordinate with the laser rangefinder and the compass on his Alaska 108 scope. "Roger that, Zalota 1. Gavin 2-2 and Zulu 1-6 said at the same time. Gavin 2-2 was the BM-30 Smerch while Zulu 1-6 was the HIMARS. Between the Senevsay fortress and the Zardost city, the BM-30 Smerch and the HIMARS begin to adjust their rocket launchers into a perfect angle so that the missile would land perfectly at the enemy position. Just like any good comic or movie scene, both the BM-30 Smerch and HIMARS prepared to attack the enemy in the dark of night with a starless sky, such that even though both tools are heavy weapons, they can do it stealthily and deadly. The Imperial soldiers may think that this weapon was made by the Voltutria Dark Mages to fight against the Empire or made by the Emroy itself that hasn't been gifted to the Empire to strengthen their combat power. Gavin 2-2, this is Zulu 1-6, I got the visual of the tangos, over, said the HIMARS operator. Zulu 1-6, this is Gavin 2-2, I also got the visual of the enemies, copy. Replied the BM-30 Smerch operator as he now put the telephone and began to type the command for firing the missiles in the laptop before pushing the red button. After getting the exact position to fire the missiles, both BM-30 Smerch and HIMARS operators pushed the red button at the same time, and thus, several M31A2 rockets and 9 M542 PGM missiles began to fly to the coordinates that had been given by Tikhomirov. Back to the village, Tikhomirov orders the chief village to escort the villagers to the south side so that they would be safe from the artillery range. Even though the coordinates that Tikhomirov gave to the MLRS operators are pretty far from the village, he does not want to take the risk of losing civilian lives. "We give up," said one of the Zardost city guards as he dropped his sword in front of the American soldiers along with his fellow 5 city guards. It seemed that despite that 5 of them are skilled soldiers, they still have common sense to stay alive and know that this is a battle that they can't win. Now, in every corner of the city, all of the Zardost city guards begin to lower their weapon. Their morale becomes lower and lower after seeing their comrades die like it's nothing, along with the Black Hawk pilots who announce via a loudspeaker that the Imperial reinforcement has been eradicated and no one can help them now. "Fresco Sierra, this is Whiskey 944. We have full control of the city," said one of the Black Hawk pilots. "It's showtime, boys," Spearman said. "Did any one of you bring it?" "Of course, Major," Specialist Acosta said while holding the United States flag. "Plant it." Specialist Acosta planted the United States flag right at the top of the damaged Earl Rikidavin's castle. All the American soldiers that were in the castle were looking at that, along with the captured Earl Rikidavin along his families. "You damn scum," Earl Rikidavin cursed, "you all are just bunch of cowards who use heavy explosions magic." Major Spearman walked towards Earl Rikidavin and then leans close to him. He lit his Marlboro cigarette and began to talk face to face. "Don't be such a sore loser, asshole. As we say in my world, winning is winning." Major Spearman began to laugh in front of Earl Rikidavin, seeing how pathetic he was now and still thinking that the Empire could beat them in this war. "Don't worry," he said, "luckily for you, I've got my orders. You'll be transported with your family to Alness Hill, where you shall meet our commander, Centurion Prime. He wants to have a word with you about your treatment of slaves." He then lowered his face to meet Earl's face to face, "And I can assure you, Earl, once you'll meet our commander, you'll be begging your god of death to end your life quickly, because he didn't like the way you treated your son and raped that girl. So I suggest that you should ask yourself to get a clean underwear, because when he's through with you, you'll be shitting for the rest of your miserable life." In the end, the Battle of Zardost ended with the complete victory of Allied nations' forces. This victory has ended all Zorzal's attempt to destabilize situation in Alness, as well any attempt to cause any harm to Italica and legitimate government. Zorzal was incredibly angry when he got the news of that failure, quite knowing that this has only strengthened Pina's government, as well winning more support from the population of the province. Krapa was able to escape the city before it was been captured, and was making a long journey to the north, to the city of Telta, where Zorzal's government was been located. He didn't know, is that once he returns, he'll be executed by Pretoria for failing the assignment, as well because of anger of Cassiopeia. The Vulpine woman didn't like the news that her brother Hadrian was been killed, and Order Kestrel was been all but destroyed. If she knew that most of the members of it has joined the new legitimate government army, she would have been more furious. This has put a great stump on Cassiopeia's plans on making her own private guards, so she can use it later in her agendas to take over the empire, but now those plans were gone in smoke. Angry at this, she blamed everything on Krapa, thus making him a scapegoat for Zorzel and her's failure. But little didn't they knew, is that Centurion Prime was already preparing a new move, the one that will take another ace off from Zorzel's hands, and make his situation even more worser than now. This is the end of part 21 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel to see more amazing contents.